The Vega colony station hung in the void like a silver cross, its arms stretching outward to embrace the darkness. Captain Jean-Luc Picard stood on the bridge of the USS Enterprise E, watching the docking procedures through the main view screen. The station's running lights blinked in a steady rhythm, a heartbeat in the black. "Docking clamps engaged, Captain," Lieutenant Commander Data reported from his console. "Umbilical connections established." Picard nodded. "Very good. Commander Riker, you have the con. I'll be meeting with Administrator Chen regarding the dilithium shipment." "Aye, sir." Will Riker settled into the captain's chair, his easy smile masking the routine boredom of what should have been a simple resupply stop. Picard had barely reached the turbolift when space itself split open. The rupture appeared without warning, a massive tear in reality that screamed violet and blue. The bridge crew froze as something emerged from the wound in space. Ships. Dozens of them. Massive, ornate vessels covered in purple and silver plating, their hulls adorned with symbols that spoke of religious fervor and absolute conviction. "Red alert." Riker's voice cracked across the bridge. "All hands to battle stations." The Covenant fleet emerged in perfect formation, capital ships flanked by cruisers and smaller attack craft. At the center, the Prophet of Regret's carrier dominated the void, a floating cathedral of war. On the bridge, Tactical Officer Lieutenant Commander Daniels stared at his readouts in disbelief. "Sir, I'm reading weapon signatures unlike anything in our database. Energy output is off the charts." "Hail them," Picard ordered, returning to the bridge at a run. He straightened his uniform and stood before the view screen. "This is Captain Jean-Luc Picard of the Federation Starship Enterprise. We are on a peaceful mission." The view screen flickered. The Prophet of Regret materialized, floating in his gravity throne, his eyes burning with zealous hatred behind his elaborate helmet. "Your kind has no right to speak," Regret's voice echoed through the bridge, translated by the universal translator but losing none of its venom. "You defile the sacred gifts of the Forerunners with your very existence. The great journey cannot begin while your heresy pollutes the stars." Picard stepped forward. "I don't know who you are or what you believe we've done, but..." "Silence." Regret's hand rose. "The Covenant has spoken. Humanity is to be cleansed. Your monuments will be glass. Your legacy, forgotten. This is the will of the prophets." The screen went dark. "Captain!" Daniel shouted. "Multiple ships charging weapons." "Shields up." Evasive. The first plasma torpedo hit Vega Station's northern arm. The explosion was soundless in the vacuum but devastating. The entire section vaporized in a ball of superheated plasma, taking 300 souls with it. The shockwave rocked the Enterprise, still locked to the docking clamps. "Emergency separation." Picard grabbed the armrest of his chair. "Get us out of here." Data's fingers flew across his console, attempting override of docking protocols. "Station computer is not responding." Another volley struck. This time, the central hub, the administrative sector where Picard had been heading moments ago, ceased to exist. Fires bloomed in the void, oxygen feeding flames before the vacuum claimed them. "Manual release," Riker ordered. "Blow the clamps if you have to." The Enterprise shuddered as explosive bolts fired, severing the connections in a shower of sparks and debris. The great starship pulled away from the dying station, maneuvering thrusters firing at maximum. "They're firing again," Daniels called out. Picard watched helplessly as the Covenant fleet unleashed hell. Beam weapons focused energy that cut through the station's shields like they weren't there, sliced through the remaining sections. Secondary explosions rippled across the structure as power conduits overloaded and fuel reserves ignited. Reading multiple civilian ships attempting to flee, Data reported, his android voice steady despite the chaos. "Covenant fighters are pursuing." On the view screen, small personal craft and shuttles scattered from the station's launch bays. They didn't make it far. Banshee fighters swooped in, their plasma cannons turning the refugee ships into expanding clouds of debris. "We have to help them." Lieutenant Kala at the helm turned to Picard, her Bajoran features tight with fury. "Number of Covenant vessels?" Picard's voice was granite. 47 and counting, Daniels answered. "More ships still emerging from the slipspace rupture. We're one ship." Riker's words were bitter but true. We can't fight them all. Picard's hands gripped the armrests until his knuckles went white. Every instinct screamed at him to fight, to defend those people. But a captain's duty wasn't just to the moment, it was to the future. Set course for Earth, he ordered, each word tasting like ash. Maximum warp. Sir, Kala began. Now, Lieutenant. The Enterprise banked hard, dodging a plasma torpedo that passed close enough to make the shields flare. Warp nacelles began to glow as the ship aligned for jump. Behind them, Vega Station died. The final explosion was massive, a miniature star blooming in the black. The station's fusion reactor went critical, taking the last survivors and their attackers' forward screen with it. The blast wave caught the Enterprise just as it jumped to warp, sending the ship tumbling through subspace like a leaf in a hurricane. Picard pulled himself up from where he'd been thrown against the railing. Damage report. Shields down to 40%, Daniels called out. Hull breaches on decks 12 and 15. Casualty reports coming in. Sick bay. This is the captain. Dr. Crusher. Prepare for wounded. Beverly Crusher's voice came through, tight with professional focus. Already on it, Jean-Luc. How many? Picard looked at Data, who had pulled up the casualty list. The android's face, usually expressionless, showed something that might have been grief. 17 dead, Captain, 43 wounded. We got off light, Riker said quietly. Yes. Picard stared at the view screen, now showing nothing but the streaking stars of warp flight. We did. But behind them, Vega Colony burned. 4,000 colonists, 300 station crew, and the souls of every ship that couldn't escape, gone in less than 10 minutes. The war had begun. The Enterprise limped toward Earth at maximum sustainable warp, her crew working around the clock to repair damage and tend to the wounded. In his ready room, Picard composed his report to Starfleet Command, though he knew his words would sound insane. The communication came 36 hours later. Every Federation channel, military, civilian, commercial, even private subspace frequencies received it simultaneously. The Covenant had hacked into the very fabric of Federation communication networks with contemptuous ease. Picard was on the bridge when the view screen flickered and died, replaced by the visage of the Prophet of Truth. Unlike Regret, Truth wore more elaborate robes, his throne adorned with floating holograms of ancient symbols. His voice, when he spoke, carried the weight of absolute conviction. Children of a broken covenant, scattered children of Earth, and her countless spawn hear the word of truth. The bridge crew stared in shock. This wasn't a targeted transmission. This was everywhere. Your species stumbled into the holy light of the Forerunners and dared to claim their legacy as your own. You spread across stars meant for the faithful, defiling sacred sites with your presence. You are not inheritors. You are thieves, blasphemers, a plague upon creation itself. Truth's hands spread wide, as if offering benediction. The Covenant has spent millennia following the path of the Great Journey, seeking the sacred rings that will elevate all worthy beings to paradise. Your kind stands in the way of divine ascension. Therefore, the High Council of Prophets has decreed, humanity is to be exterminated, not enslaved, not converted, destroyed utterly, so that not even your memory remains to pollute the galaxy. Picard felt ice in his veins. This wasn't a military threat. This was a death sentence for the entire human race. Your soldiers will burn. Your colonies will be glass. Your homeworld will become a monument to the price of heresy. This is not negotiable. This is not subject to treaty or surrender. This is holy war, and it ends only when the last human draws their last breath. Truth leaned forward, his ancient eyes burning with zealotry. Run to your leaders. Gather your fleets. Build your defenses. It matters not. The Covenant is the will of the gods made manifest. We have crushed 100 species across 1,000 years. What is one more? The screen flickered. We are coming. The transmission ended. Silence filled the bridge. Then every console began screaming at once as reports flooded in from across Federation space. The message had reached every world, every ship, every outpost. Billions of people had just learned they were marked for extinction. Captain, Data's voice cut through the chaos. I am receiving Priority 1 transmissions from Starfleet Command. All senior officers are ordered to Earth immediately. Maintain course, Picard said. Get me Admiral Ross. The view screen flickered again, this time showing the haggard face of Admiral William Ross. Behind him, Starfleet headquarters was in chaos, officers running, alarms blaring, the organized machine of Federation defense scrambling to comprehend an enemy that had just declared genocide. Picard. Ross looked like he'd aged 10 years. Please tell me your report from Vega was exaggerated. I wish I could, Admiral. If anything, I understated the threat. The Covenant fleet moved with perfect coordination. Their weapons cut through our shields like they weren't there. And Vega wasn't a military target, it was a massacre. We're getting reports of similar attacks at Delta Pavonis, Harvest, and Troy. Ross's hands moved across his console. Early estimates put casualties at over 12,000 and climbing. They're not hitting strategic targets, Picard. They're hitting population centers. Terrorizing us, Riker observed from behind the captain's chair. No. Picard shook his head. Terror implies they want us to surrender. Truth made their position clear, they want us dead. This is about efficiency. Kill as many as possible while our defenses are scattered. Then we gather them. Ross's jaw set. Emergency session of all senior staff. Every available captain, every admiral, every tactical officer who can make it to Earth. We're convening in 6 hours. Understood. Enterprise out. The screen went dark. Picard stood, moving to the window where stars streaked past in the distortion of warp flight. Captain? Riker approached quietly. What do you think they meant about sacred sites and forerunners? I don't know, number one. But it doesn't matter. Whatever humanity supposedly did to offend them, they've decided the only acceptable response is our complete annihilation. He turned to face his first officer. Religious zealotry combined with superior technology and absolute conviction. We're facing an enemy that can't be reasoned with. Then we beat them the old-fashioned way. Against 47 ships? That was just their opening move. Picard returned to his chair. We need allies, we need information, and we need time. Time's the one thing they're not giving us, Riker said quietly. On the view screen, Earth grew larger. The war was 6 hours old. The conference room at Starfleet Command held the greatest gathering of military minds the Federation had assembled since the Dominion War. Admirals Ross, Nechayev, and Akar sat at the head of the table. Captain Picard took his seat beside Admiral Janeway, who looked as grim as he'd ever seen her. Across from them, Captain Sisko of Deep Space Nine sat with Commander Worf at his side. The room was packed. Every captain who could make it to Earth in time stood against the walls. The air was electric with tension and barely suppressed panic. Admiral Ross called the meeting to order. 38 hours ago, an unknown hostile force attacked Vega Colony. As of this moment, we've confirmed similar attacks at 17 Federation worlds, 2 Starfleet installations, and multiple civilian shipping lanes. Estimated casualties, 47,000 and counting. The number hit like a physical blow. 47,000 in less than 2 days. Captain Picard, Ross continued, you had direct contact with the enemy. Tell us what we're facing. Picard stood, calling up holographic data from the Enterprise's encounter. The Covenant ships materialized in miniature above the table, sleek, deadly, utterly alien. They call themselves the Covenant, a theocratic military alliance of multiple alien species, united under the rule of 3 leaders they call prophets. Their stated goal is the complete extermination of humanity, which they view as a religious imperative. Admiral Nechayev, her face hard as stone, leaned forward. Religious imperative? They want to kill 10 billion people because of their faith? Not despite it, because of it. Picard highlighted sections of Truth's transmission. They believe humans are defiling something called Forerunner sacred sites. They speak of a great journey and claim humanity's existence prevents their ascension. Lunatics with weapons, Captain Solak of the USS Tucumbra said flatly. This is a known phenomenon. Religious extremism combined with technological capability produces predictable aggression patterns. These aren't random fanatics, Picard countered. Their fleet movements at Vega showed tactical sophistication equal to anything we've seen. Their weapons technology exceeds ours, and their slip-space travel, whatever that is, appears faster than our warp drive. Captain Shelby stood from the back. What about their military structure? Who's commanding these fleets? Based on limited observation and communication intercepts, the Covenant appears to be organized into a strict hierarchy. The prophets provide religious and strategic direction. Below them, warrior species carry out the actual fighting. We've identified at least 3 distinct types: what appear to be elite warriors in advanced armor, shock troops in simpler gear, and small methane-breathing creatures serving as cannon fodder. Worf's voice rumbled across the room. The elite warriors. I fought one that boarded a civilian transport during the Vega evacuation. It took 4 security officers to bring it down. Their strength, speed, and combat training are exceptional. Then we're facing an enemy that outguns us, outnumbers us, and has already proven willing to kill civilians without hesitation. Admiral Akar's massive frame seemed to fill his chair. What are our strategic options? Silence fell across the room. No one wanted to say it. Admiral Janeway finally spoke up. We call in every favor, every alliance, every species that has reason to fear an expansionist theocracy that commits genocide. The Romulans won't help, Nechayev said immediately. They'll wait to see who wins. The Cardassians are still recovering from the Dominion War, Shelby added. They can barely defend their own space. What about the Klingons? Ross looked at Worf. The Klingon tactical officer straightened. Chancellor Martok values the Federation alliance, but the High Council will need cause beyond theoretical threat. As if summoned by his name, the view screen flickered to life. A Klingon aide appeared, his scarred face urgent. Admiral Ross, we have an incoming transmission from QO-Nos, Chancellor Martok himself. Ross stood. Put him through. The screen filled with Martok's grizzled visage. The legendary Klingon warrior looked like he'd been in a fight, burn marks on his armor, blood on his face, but his one good eye blazed with fierce joy. Picard, Ross, I hope you're calling to share enemy coordinates, because I have some of my own. Chancellor? Picard stepped forward. What happened? What happened? Glory happened. Martok's laugh was savage. These Covenant Petaku attacked our listening posts along the Hromi cluster. Killed everyone. Burned 3 colonies to bedrock. Thousands of Klingon warriors dead before we even knew we had an enemy. The room tensed. A Klingon empire seeking vengeance was a weapon in itself. They killed my nephew, Picard, Koloth's grandson, burned his ship to atoms and broadcast their religious dreck while they did it. Martok's fist slammed down. So I took a fleet to meet them at Tygokor. 50 Covenant ships, 22 of ours. And? Sisko asked. And we killed 9 of theirs before we had to retreat. Lost 14 ships, but by Kahless, we made them bleed. Martok's grin was terrifying. These aliens, Picard, they fight with honor. No cloaking, no tricks, just pure warrior fury. Finally, an enemy worthy of Klingon steel. Chancellor, Ross interrupted, are you saying... I'm saying the Klingon Empire is already at war with your new enemy, and I'm saying we will crush them together, or we will die gloriously trying. Martok leaned closer to the screen. Federation Council has 1 hour to accept formal military alliance, full fleet integration, shared intelligence, joint operations. We hunt these zealots across the stars and show them what happens when they wake the Empire. The Council will need time to deliberate. Nechayev began. No time, Martok roared. They're coming, Admiral. My scouts report massive fleet movements toward your core worlds. This isn't a raid anymore. This is invasion. So decide. Fight beside us, or die alone. Ross looked at Picard, then at the assembled captains. He saw the same answer in every face. 1 hour, Ross said. We'll have your answer. Martok's grin widened. I'll be waiting. And Picard? Save some Covenant for me. Kopla. The screen went dark. The room exploded into conversation. Nechayev was already on her communicator to the Federation Council. Akar was coordinating fleet movements. Janeway pulled up strategic maps of the Klingon border. Picard found himself standing beside Sisko and Worf. A month ago, I was arguing about colony resource allocation, Sisko said quietly. Now we're forming a military pact to fight a holy war against aliens who want to exterminate us. Welcome to command, Picard replied without humor. Worf's voice was thoughtful. Martok spoke of honor in their fighting style. No cloaking devices, no deception. If true, this suggests a warrior culture with codes of conduct. A warrior culture that slaughters civilians, Sisko countered. Don't romanticize them, Commander. I do not romanticize genocide, Worf growled. But understanding an enemy's psychology is how you defeat them. If they value honor in combat, we can use that. Picard nodded slowly. Data's analysis suggested the same. The Covenant is not monolithic multiple species, each with their own culture. There may be fractures we can exploit. Later. Ross's voice cut through the chaos. Right now, we need to survive long enough to find those fractures. Picard, you're heading a task force to analyze Covenant technology and tactics. Janeway, you're coordinating with Klingon High Command on fleet integration. Sisko, Deep Space Nine is now our forward operating base for all operations in that sector. Orders flew. Captains scattered. The machine of war began to turn, but Picard remained, staring at the holographic display of Federation space. Red markers indicated confirmed Covenant attacks. There were so many, and this was just the beginning. You're thinking about Vega, Riker said quietly, appearing at his shoulder. I'm thinking about all of them. Every world, every station, every ship. Picard's voice was hollow. We left them to die, Will. We survived to warn the fleet. That's what matters. Does it? Picard turned to face his first officer. When this is over, if this is ever over, will that be enough? Or will I spend the rest of my life seeing those shuttles exploding? Riker had no answer. The emergency session lasted 6 more hours. By the time it adjourned, the Federation and Klingon Empire had formally allied. Combined fleet strategies were being drawn up. Evacuation plans for border worlds were underway. But as Picard walked through the halls of Starfleet Command, watching officers scramble to prepare for a war none of them truly understood, he couldn't shake the feeling that they were already too late. The Covenant was coming, and the slaughter had barely begun. The IKS Negvar, flagship of the Klingon Defense Force, hung in orbit above Earth like a promise of violence. Chancellor Martok stood on the bridge, his leather and metal armor still scorched from the battle at Tycho Core, and watched the blue world turn beneath him. Soft, he muttered. Too soft for what's coming. His first officer, Commander Clag, grunted agreement. The Federation has grown weak in peacetime. They hesitate, debate, while the enemy burns their worlds. That's about to change. Martok's eye gleamed. War has a way of burning away the softness. The view screen activated. Captain Picard appeared, standing in a Starfleet conference room with Admiral Ross and Admiral Janeway. Chancellor, Picard began, thank you for coming to Earth. I didn't come to admire your homeworld, Picard. I came to plan how we kill these Covenant Petaku. Martok moved closer to the screen. My fleet is ready. 200 warships are assembling at the Khitomer sector. When do we strike? Ross leaned forward. We're still coordinating. While you coordinate, they slaughter. Martok's fist hit the console. Every hour you delay is another 1,000 dead. I've seen what these aliens do, Admiral. They don't occupy. They don't conquer. They exterminate. Which is why we need a strategic approach, Janeway interjected calmly. Rushing in without intelligence is suicide. Sitting and planning while children burn is cowardice, Martok roared. Picard held up a hand. Chancellor, we're not suggesting inaction, but we need to understand their fleet capabilities, their command structure, I understand everything I need to know. Martok gestured, and his tactical officer brought up holographic data. The Covenant fights in standardized fleet formations. Heavy carriers at the center, cruisers providing screening, fighters for pursuit. Their weapons are energy-based plasma primarily, with some kind of focused beam for capital ships. Ross studied the display. How did you acquire this intelligence? By fighting them. Martok's laugh was harsh. At Tycho Core, we faced a fleet of 50. They moved in textbook formation, predictable, rigid. Their ships are powerful, but their tactics are ceremonial. They fight like they're performing a ritual, not adapting to battlefield conditions. That matches what we saw at Vega, Picard mused. Perfect formation, overwhelming force, but no improvisation when things went wrong. Exactly. Martok zoomed in on one of the captured images, an elite warrior in gold armor. But their ground forces are another matter. These warriors, their Sanghaili as prisoners called them, fight with cunning and skill. We boarded one of their damaged cruisers. 20 Klingons against 8 of these elites. And, Sisko's voice came from off-screen, 16 Klingons died before we killed the last one. Martok's respect was grudging. They are worthy enemies, strong, fast, trained from birth for war. Their personal shields absorb multiple disruptor hits. Their plasma swords cut through duranium like tissue. Worf stepped into view beside Picard. What about their leadership? Did you capture any? We took 3 elites alive. They revealed nothing under interrogation. Honor prevents them from betraying their prophets. But we learned this. The Covenant is not united in purpose. The Sanghaili respect warrior codes. The ones we fought called us worthy adversaries, even as they tried to kill us. But their leaders, these prophets, Martok spat. Religious fanatics who never set foot on battlefields. They give orders from their holy cities and watch from safety while others die. A warrior culture led by priests, Janeway observed. That's an inherent contradiction. Yes, Martok's grin was savage. And contradictions can be exploited. Ross brought up a star map. What's your assessment of their overall strategy? Simple, brutal, effective. Martok highlighted several systems. They strike multiple targets simultaneously, overwhelming local defenses before reinforcements arrive. They're probing our borders, testing response times. Soon they'll identify our weak points and drive straight for critical infrastructure. Earth, Picard said quietly, and Kronos, and Vulcan, and every other homeworld worth destroying. Martok's face hardened. But here's what your analysts won't tell you. They're overextended. 50 ships at Tygokor, 40 at Vega, multiple smaller fleets at other sites. They're spreading their forces to maximize terror, but it leaves them vulnerable to concentrated counterattack. You want to hit them while they're dispersed, Ross realized. I want to ram a bat'leth down their sanctimonious throats. Martok slammed his fist down again. But yes, Admiral, we strike their staging areas before they consolidate. We make them pay for every light year of Federation space they defile. The conference room doors opened. Admiral Nechayev entered, her face grave. We just received word from Beta Z. A Covenant fleet has entered the system. The room froze. How many ships? Picard demanded. 37 confirmed. More emerging from slipspace. Nechayev's voice was clinical, hiding the horror beneath. They're broadcasting the same message. Humanity is heresy. Resistance is futile. Prepare for cleansing. Betaist has minimal military presence, Janeway said, already pulling up defense matrices. Mostly scientific and civilian populations. Almost 6 billion people. The nearest Federation fleet is 12 hours away, Ross added grimly. Martok was already moving. My fleet can be there in 4. Wait. Picard's voice was sharp. This could be a trap. Draw our forces out of position, then strike at our core worlds while we're committed elsewhere. So we let 6 billion people die? Sisko's voice was ice. No. Picard's jaw set. We defend Betazd with everything we can spare. But we don't leave Earth undefended. We split our forces. Divide our strength? Clag growled from Martok's bridge. Foolish. We're already divided, Janeway countered. The Federation is spread across parsecs. We can't defend everywhere at once. So we choose our battles and pray we choose correctly. Ross made the decision. Martok, take your fleet to Beta Zezd. Coordinate with whatever local forces are available. Hold them as long as you can. And if I can't hold? Martok's voice carried no fear, only pragmatism. Then you make them pay for every meter. Show them that this war will cost them everything. Ross turned to Picard. Enterprise, Defiant, and 12 other ships will form Task Force Omega. You're our rapid response. Wherever they hit next, you hit back harder. Understood. Picard looked at Martok. Chancellor, we'll feed you tactical data in real time. If we identify their command ship, I'll gut it personally. Martok's grin returned. Today is a good day for someone to die, Picard. Let's make sure it's them. Kapla! The screen went dark. Orders cascaded through Starfleet channels. Ships broke orbit, heading to rally points. The combined Federation Klingon fleet was mobilizing for the first time since the Dominion War. But this enemy was unknown, untested, and according to every report, utterly without mercy. Picard returned to the Enterprise immediately. The ship was still undergoing repairs, but there was no time for perfect. War demanded good enough. Status? He asked, striding onto the bridge. Shields at 87%, Riker reported. All weapon systems online. Engineering says the warp drive is stable, but they'd prefer another 6 hours for full diagnostics. They have 1 hour. We rendezvous with the task force at Sector 221. The crew moved with practiced efficiency, but Picard could see the tension. They'd all seen Truth's broadcast. They all knew what failure meant. Captain. Data turned from his console. I have completed preliminary analysis of the Covenant battle footage from Tygokor. The Chancellor was correct. Their fleet tactics follow rigid patterns. However, their fighter squadrons demonstrate considerably more adaptability, meaning their pilots have more freedom than their capital ship commanders. Precisely. It suggests a command structure where ground and fighter operations operate with local autonomy, while fleet movements follow predetermined doctrine. Interesting. Picard filed that away. What about their weapons? Plasma-based technology, but far more sophisticated than anything in Federation databases. The focusing arrays appear to use some kind of gravitic lens. Also, their shields operate on a rotating modulation frequency that makes them highly resistant to sustained fire. How do we counter that? By not engaging in sustained fire. Short, concentrated volleys from multiple vectors, overwhelming their rotation cycle. Data cocked his head. Or, based on the Klingon engagement data, close-range combat where maneuverability matters more than raw firepower. Riker grinned. So we fight them like Klingons. The Chancellor would approve. Worf rumbled from tactical. Make it so. Picard settled into his chair. Set course for the rally point. Maximum warp. The Enterprise leapt forward, stars stretching into streamers of light. In orbit above Kronos, Martok's fleet was already moving. 200 Klingon warships, birds of prey, Vorcha-class cruisers, and the massive Negvar herself formed up in battle wings and jumped to warp. Martok stood on his bridge, cup of blood wine in hand, and toasted his crew. To glorious battle. To honorable death. To showing these Covenant dogs that Klingons do not die quietly. The crew roared approval. Helm, engage. Martok downed his blood wine in one swallow and hurled the cup against the bulkhead. And somebody get me a direct line to their commander when we arrive. I want to see the face of whoever I'm about to kill. The fleet vanished into warp space. Behind them, on both Earth and Kronos, billions watched the stars and waited. The Covenant was coming, but this time, they'd find warriors waiting for them. The Betazid system burned. Martok's fleet dropped out of warp to find the Covenant already at work. 37 enemy ships surrounded the planet, their plasma batteries hammering the surface. Cities died in firestorms. Shields failed. Millions perished in seconds. Target their carriers, Martok roared. Full weapons spread. Today we feast in Sto-vo-kor. The Klingon fleet crashed into the Covenant formation like a tidal wave of fury. Disruptors and photon torpedoes lit up the void. A Covenant cruiser exploded as 3 birds of prey concentrated fire on its engines. The wreckage tumbled into Betazed's gravity well, a meteorite of twisted metal. But the Covenant didn't scatter, didn't flee. They turned to face their attackers with the calm of religious conviction. A prophet's voice echoed across all channels. The faithful do not fear death. We welcome martyrdom in service to the journey. Then I'll send you on that journey. Martok's ship drove forward, trading broadsides with a Covenant carrier. Shields flared. Hull plating vaporized. Fire everything. The Negvar's forward disruptor array unleashed hell. The Covenant carrier's shields collapsed, Secondary explosions rippled across its hull. For a moment, victory seemed possible. Then the carrier's ventral hangar opened. Hundreds of Banshee fighters poured out like angry insects. They swarmed the Klingon fleet, plasma cannons stitching across hulls, picking off weapon emplacements and shield generators with surgical precision. "Evasive action," Clag shouted. "Launch our fighters." Klingon attack craft met Covenant Banshees in a furball of desperate combat. Ships exploded, bodies tumbled into the void. The battle devolved into chaos. On Beta Z's surface, the first Covenant dropships landed. Captain Sisko watched the tactical display aboard the Defiant and swore under his breath. The small, powerful warship had arrived with 6 other Federation vessels, joining Martok's fleet in the meat grinder above Batazed. Covenant ground forces are landing in multiple cities, Lieutenant Commander Dax reported, her trill spots dark against pale skin gone white with stress. Scanners show heavy weapons, armor. They're not here to occupy. They're here to exterminate. Chief O'Brien's voice was flat. Just like everywhere else. Not on my watch. Sisko stood. Dax, coordinate with the Klingons. Keep those capital ships busy. O'Brien, I need you to. The Defiant lurched hard. Something had hit them, a glancing blow from a plasma torpedo meant for the Klingon cruiser they'd been covering. "Shields down to 60%, Nog called from engineering. "That was just a graze. Return fire." Sisko gripped the command chair. "Target their weapon batteries." The Defiant's pulse phasers hammered into a Covenant destroyer. The enemy shields flickered but held. "Their shield rotation is adapting to our weapons frequency," Dax observed. "We need multiple contacts." Nog's voice cracked. "Covenant boarding craft heading straight for us." Sisko's blood went cold. "Evasive. Don't let them." Too late. The Spirit dropship clamped onto the Defiant's hull like a parasite, cutting torches already burning through the outer plating. "Security teams to Deck 2. Sisko was already moving, grabbing a phaser rifle from the weapons locker. "Worf, you're with me." They reached Deck 2 as the hull breached. Atmosphere howled out before emergency bulkheads slammed down. Through the smoke and chaos, shapes emerged. Sanghaili elites. 6 of them, each nearly 8 feet tall in their armor, energy shields shimmering around their bodies. They carried plasma rifles and those curved energy swords Martok had warned about. Fire. Sisko didn't wait for ceremony. Phaser fire lanced out. The first elite's shields flared and collapsed. Starfleet had adapted their weapons based on Klingon combat data. The alien stumbled but didn't fall. Its armor absorbed most of the blast. Then it roared and charged. Worf met it head-on. The Klingon tactical officer was a mountain of controlled violence. His bat'leth sang through the air, meeting the elite's energy sword in a shower of sparks. They traded blows at inhuman speed, thrust, parry, strike, 2 warriors operating on instinct older than civilization. For the prophets. The elite's mandibles split wide in what might have been a grin. A worthy opponent at last. "I am Klingon," Worf roared back. "We do not fall easily." Around them, the firefight raged. Security officers concentrated fire, bringing down elites one by one, but each alien took multiple hits to kill. Their shields regenerated faster than phasers could damage them. Their armor was incredibly tough, and they fought with a skill that spoke of lifetimes of training. An elite's plasma sword cut through a security officer like he wasn't there. The man's scream ended abruptly. Sisko's rifle overheated. He dropped it, drew his phaser pistol, and fired point-blank into an elite's face. The shield collapsed. The alien's head snapped back. It fell, but there were more. Always more. Worf's bat'leth finally found a gap in his opponent's armor, driving deep into the elite's side. The alien gasped, purple blood spraying. But even dying, it refused to surrender. Its energy sword came up. Worf twisted, ripping the bat'leth free and bringing it around in a devastating arc that took the elite's head clean off. "Deck secured," someone shouted. Sisko counted bodies. 4 security officers dead, 3 wounded, all 6 elites down. But the cost was staggering. "Bridge." Sisko grabbed his communicator. "Dax, Get that boarding craft off my hull. Working on it. But we've got bigger problems. The Klingon line is breaking. Sisko and Worf raced back to the bridge. The view screen showed disaster. Martok's fleet had done tremendous damage. 11 Covenant ships were destroyed or disabled, but 16 Klingon vessels were gone. The survivors were battered, shields failing, taking damage faster than they could dish it out. And in orbit, Covenant plasma batteries continued to hammer Betazed's surface. "We can't hold," Dax said quietly. "The math doesn't work. They outnumber us, and their ships are tougher." "Tactical retreat," Sisko ordered, hating every word. "Signal all ships. We fall back to—" "Wait." Worf's eyes were locked on the tactical display. "The Negvar. It is moving." Martok's flagship was indeed moving straight toward the largest Covenant carrier, the one broadcasting the Prophet's voice. "He's ramming them," O'Brien breathed. "No." Worf's voice held admiration. "He is boarding them." The Negvar crashed through the Covenant carrier's fighter screen like it didn't exist. Point defense fire raked its hull. Sections vaporized. The ship was dying. But it didn't stop. At the last second, the Negvar fired every transporter it had. Dozens of Klingon warriors beamed directly onto the Covenant carrier's bridge. On the view screen, they could see Martok himself materialize, Batleth already swinging. The transmission from the Covenant ship cut to static. Then the carrier's shields failed. Its engines detonated. The massive ship broke apart in a fireball that lit up Betazed's night sky. "Chancellor!" Clagg's voice came over the fleet channel, raw with grief. "He lives!" Worf zoomed in on the scopes. Transporter signature. He beamed to an escape pod at the last second. Sure enough, Martok's grizzled face appeared on the view screen, grinning from inside a cramped Klingon escape pod. "That was for my nephew, you prophets, Petaku." He laughed like a madman. "And now retreat. All ships fall back." The Klingon fleet limped away, breaking contact. The Covenant didn't pursue. They were too busy reorganizing after losing their flagship and commander. The Defiance warp drive engaged. Stars stretched. Betazed fell behind. "Casualty report," Sisko said quietly. Dax's voice was hollow. "Klingon fleet lost 16 ships. Our task force lost 3. Estimated ground casualties on Betazed." She paused. 2 million, and counting. 2 million dead. In one battle, and they'd barely slowed the Covenant down. Sisko slumped in his chair, suddenly exhausted. This wasn't like the Dominion War. The Dominion wanted territory, resources, strategic advantage. You could negotiate with that. Find common ground. The Covenant wanted humanity extinct. Every man, woman, and child just gone. "How did you fight that, Captain?" Worf said quietly. "My fight with the elite. He called me a worthy opponent. He seemed pleased to face someone skilled. So the prophets preach genocide, but their warriors crave honorable combat." Worf's brow furrowed. "That is a contradiction, one we might exploit later." Sisko stood. "Right now, we need to figure out where they'll hit next, because Betazed was just practice." The Defiant raced through warp space, carrying its cargo of wounded and traumatized crew. Behind them, Betazed burned. The Covenant continued their holy work, and across the galaxy, in hidden observatories and cloaked ships, other eyes watched. The Romulans were paying very close attention. The Romulan warbird Valdor hung in the blackness beyond the neutral zone, cloaked and silent. On its bridge, Commander Denatra watched sensor feeds from the battle at Betazed with the cold calculation of a predator evaluating new competition. "Analysis," she ordered. Her science officer, a thin woman with the characteristic Romulan brow and calculating eyes, brought up tactical overlays. The Covenant vessels demonstrate superior shielding and energy weapons compared to Federation standards. However, their tactical doctrine is rigid, predictable, and their fleet composition suggests they prioritize overwhelming force over strategic subtlety. In other words, they fight like Klingons with better weapons. Denatra's lip curled. "And the Federation?" "Holding. Barely. The Klingon alliance provides additional hulls, but casualties are severe. At current attrition rates, the Federation cannot sustain prolonged conflict, which means the Covenant will push deeper into their territory. Donatra zoomed in on the star maps. And when the Federation falls, who do you think these religious zealots will turn their attention to next? The science officer said nothing. She didn't need to. The answer was obvious. Contact the Tal Shiar, Donatra ordered. Tell them I need everything they have on these Covenant. Every scrap of intelligence, every communication intercept, everything. Commander. The science officer's surprise was carefully hidden but present. The Tal Shiar doesn't report to. I'm not asking. Donatra's voice could have frozen stars. We're in uncharted territory now. Old rivalries don't matter if we're all dead. She returned her attention to the view screen, where Betazed continued to burn. The Covenant had made one critical mistake. They'd assumed the galaxy's major powers would remain divided. They'd counted on the Romulans staying neutral, watching the Federation bleed while protecting Romulan interests. They were wrong. 4 days later, deep beneath the surface of Romulus in the shadowed halls of the Tal Shiar headquarters, Donatra met with agents who technically didn't exist. What do we know? She asked without preamble. The lead agent, a man whose name she would never learn, brought up holographic data. The Covenant is a multi-species theocracy spanning hundreds of worlds. They're led by 3 beings called hierarchs, or prophets: truth, mercy, and regret. Their religion centers on something called the Great Journey, a belief that activating ancient rings called halos will elevate all faithful species to godhood. And humanity prevents this. How? We're not certain. Their broadcasts call humans reclaimers and defilers of Forerunner sites. The Forerunners appear to be an ancient species who left technology scattered across the galaxy. The Covenant worships these Forerunners as gods. Donatra processed this. So, this is a holy war over archaeology. More than that. The agent highlighted specific data. We've intercepted multiple transmissions between Covenant commanders. There's tension within their hierarchy. The Sangheili, their elite warriors, are devoted to the prophets, but increasingly question the wisdom of total extermination. They view humans as worthy adversaries. Internal division. Donatra leaned forward. Can we exploit it? Perhaps. But here's what concerns us most. The agent brought up new images, fleet movements, troop dispositions, strategic markers. The Covenant's current offensive is probing. They're testing Federation defenses, mapping response times, identifying critical infrastructure. For what? An all-out assault on Earth. The agent's voice was grim. We've decoded portions of their tactical communications. Prophet of Truth is marshalling a fleet of over 300 ships. Once they've weakened Federation defenses sufficiently, they'll strike at humanity's homeworld. 300 ships. The thought chilled even Donatra's disciplined mind. When? 3 weeks. Perhaps 4. They're waiting for reinforcements from their outer territories. Donatra stood, pacing. If Earth falls, the Federation collapses. If the Federation collapses, the Covenant has free reign across this entire sector. Eventually, they'll turn toward Romulan space. Agreed. Which brings us to our recommendation. The agent's eyes glittered. We cannot allow Earth to fall. You're suggesting we help the Federation. Donatra's voice was flat. The Senate will never. The Senate doesn't need to know. The agent leaned closer. The Tal Shiar has assets, ships that officially don't exist, weapons we've been developing in secret. We feed intelligence to the Federation through back-channel contacts. We position our forces to intercept Covenant fleet movements, and when they strike at Earth, we're already there, cloaked and waiting. Donatra saw it, hit them from behind while they're engaged with Federation forces. Exactly. The Covenant has never faced cloaking technology. They won't know we're there until it's too late. It was brilliant, ruthless, and absolutely necessary. What about the Praetor? Donatra asked. He'll need to authorize. The Praetor is a politician. Politicians worry about appearances and politics. The agent's smile was cold. We're intelligence officers. We worry about survival. Donatra made her decision. Do it. Coordinate with my ship and the Fifth Fleet. We position near Vulcan, close enough to respond if the Covenant targets Earth, but far enough to maintain plausible deniability. And if the Senate discovers we're violating the Neutral Zone Treaty, then we'll tell them the truth. Donatra's eyes were hard. That we chose survival over pride. That we helped save Earth not for the Federation's sake, but for our own. The agent nodded and disappeared into the shadows. Dinatra returned to her ship and gave the orders. 22 Romulan warbirds, the newest, most powerful vessels in the fleet, began moving into position along the Federation border. On her view screen, she pulled up the latest intelligence from the Covenant offensive. More colonies burning, more ships destroyed, the death toll climbed into the millions. "Commander," her tactical officer said quietly, "are we really going to war to save the Federation?" "No." Dinatra's voice was cold as the void. "We're going to war to save ourselves. The Federation just happens to benefit." She zoomed in on Earth, that blue marble hanging in the black, unaware of the storm gathering against it. "Let the Covenant come," she whispered. "We'll teach them that the galaxy has teeth they haven't seen yet." In the darkness beyond Romulan space, Covenant fleets continued to gather. The Prophet of Truth stood in his sanctum aboard High Charity, the massive holy city station that served as the Covenant's capital. Before him, holographic displays showed the Federation crumbling. "The humans resist more fiercely than anticipated," his advisor, a lesser prophet, observed. "All heretics struggle before enlightenment," Truth replied, his voice utterly serene. "But struggle is meaningless. Their worlds fall, their fleets shatter. Soon, we will strike at the heart of their blasphemy, this Earth, and cleanse it so thoroughly that future generations will doubt humans ever existed." The Sangheili report heavy losses. "Acceptable." Truth's eyes gleamed. "Every elite who dies for the journey ascends to paradise. They should be grateful for the honor." But somewhere in the depths of High Charity, in the military command centers where elites planned campaigns and trained warriors, doubt whispered. Fleet Master Ardas Vadam studied casualty reports from Beta Z and frowned behind his helmet. "These humans and their allies fight with honor," he told his second-in-command. "They do not flee when overmatched. They die defending their worlds." "As any warrior would," his second agreed. "Yes." Ritaz zoomed in on footage of the Klingon boarding action, which makes the Prophet's decree of total extermination troubling. "We are not executioners. We are soldiers. Speak carefully, Fleet Master. Such words border on heresy." Ritaeus said nothing more. But the doubt remained. The Covenant had fought many species in their long history. Most surrendered, some fought. A few earned the right to join the Covenant through valor. But the prophets had decreed humans could never join, could never surrender, could only die. For the first time in his long military career, Ritaz Vadam wondered if the prophets were wrong. He kept that thought to himself. The USS Enterprise hung in space dock above Earth, undergoing rapid repairs while its crew worked without rest. In the ship's main science lab, Commander Data stood before a holographic display that showed the skeletal structure of a Sangheili elite rotating slowly in the air. Around him, bodies lay on examination tables, dead Covenant soldiers recovered from battle sites, elites, grunts, and one massive corpse that weighed over 1,000 pounds of brute, according to intercepted communications. "Fascinating," Data murmured, his golden eyes scanning biological data. Each species fills a specific military role, yet they demonstrate vastly different cultural values. Captain Picard entered the lab with Dr. Crusher. Both looked exhausted, neither had slept in 30 hours. "Report. Mr. Data, I have completed analysis of Covenant prisoners and recovered bodies. The results are illuminating." Data brought up new displays. The Covenant is not a unified species but a hierarchical alliance of distinct races, each occupying predetermined social and military positions. "We knew that much," Crusher said, studying the elite corpse with clinical detachment. "She'd autopsied 3 of them already. What's the breakdown?" "At the apex are the Sanshuum, the prophets. They provide religious authority and strategic direction but never engage in direct combat. Below them, the Sangheili serve as warriors, ship commanders, and military leadership. They value honor, martial prowess, and loyalty to the Covenant above all else." Data highlighted the smaller corpses. "The Ungoi, called grunts by our forces, serve as expendable infantry. Low intelligence, short life expectancy, treated as cannon fodder. And here," He indicated the massive brute. The Jiralhanae. Incredibly strong, aggressive, less disciplined than Sangheli but equally dangerous. A caste system, Picard observed, with the prophets using religious doctrine to maintain control. Precisely, but there are fractures. Data brought up intercepted communications, running them through translation protocols. Listen to this exchange, recorded during the Battle of Beta Z. A voice in the elite language filled the room, Data's translation appearing as text. Elite Commander. The humans fight with honor. Why do the prophets forbid negotiation? Elite Subordinate. Ours is not to question. The journey demands their extinction. Elite Commander. The journey, yes. But at what cost to our own honor? The recording ended. Dissent, Picard said softly. They're questioning orders. Some are, Data confirmed. Not openly, and not yet in significant numbers. But the pattern repeats across multiple intercepts. Elite commanders express doubts about the total extermination policy. They see humans as worthy adversaries rather than vermin to be eradicated. Crusher leaned against a table. What about the other species? The grunts show no independent thought. They follow orders or face execution by their elite overseers. The brutes, however, demonstrate increasing prominence. Intelligence suggests the prophets are elevating Jiralhanae warriors to positions traditionally held by Sangheli. Divide and conquer, Picard mused. The prophets sense elite doubt and introduce rivals for military authority. That is my assessment. Data pulled up organizational charts showing Covenant command structure, which suggests a potential strategy. We cannot defeat the Covenant militarily. Their numbers and technology give them overwhelming advantage. But we might fracture their alliance from within by exploiting elite honor against prophet fanaticism. Picard studied the data with growing interest. How do we do that? I have been analyzing elite communication patterns, cultural markers, and battlefield behavior. They possess a rigid honor code similar to Klingon warrior culture. They respect strength, valor in combat, and adherence to martial traditions. They also slaughter civilians by the millions. Crusher interjected sharply. Don't romanticize them, Data. I do not romanticize genocide, Doctor. I merely observe that the elite's cultural values contradict the prophet's extermination mandate. That contradiction creates psychological stress, and psychological stress creates vulnerability. Picard nodded slowly. If we can demonstrate to the elites that the prophets are using them as tools rather than honoring them as warriors, we might turn them, Data finished. Or at minimum, reduce their combat effectiveness through internal conflict. The doors hissed open. Admiral Janeway entered with a Klingon officer, General Martok himself, his armor still scorched from Beta Z, wearing his injuries like medals. Data, Janeway said without preamble. We need everything you have on Covenant ground tactics. Martok has a proposal. The Klingon general grinned, all teeth and violence. The prophets want holy war. We'll give them one. But first, we need to understand how their warriors think. Data brought up battlefield footage from multiple engagements. Elite warriors moving in coordinated teams, grunts providing covering fire, brutes charging straight ahead with no subtlety. The Sangheli fight with discipline and tactical awareness, Data explained. They use cover, coordinate fire, and adapt to changing battlefield conditions. The Ungoi are poorly trained but numerous. The Jiralhanae rely on brute force and aggression. No pun intended, Crusher muttered. Martok studied the footage with a warrior's eye. The elites move like Klingon assault teams. 3 warrior pods, overlapping fields of fire, mutual support. He pointed at specific examples. But they're predictable. They follow patterns, religious significance in their formations, perhaps. Highly probable, Data agreed. Many Covenant tactical doctrines appear to have ceremonial components. Then we exploit that. Martok's grin widened. Predictability kills warriors. We feed them scenarios that trigger their doctrinal responses, then hit them where they expect honor and give them chaos instead. That seems dishonorable, Picard said carefully. It's war, Martok shot back. Honor is for warriors who can afford it. We're fighting for survival against an enemy that gives no quarter. I'll be as dishonorable as necessary to save QO-NOS and the Federation. Janeway stepped between them. Gentlemen, we're on the same side. Data, continue your analysis. Focus on identifying high-value targets within the Covenant command structure, elites who might be turned or eliminated to maximize disruption. Already underway, Admiral. I have identified 3 elite commanders who demonstrate repeated questioning of Prophet directives. If we could establish communication, we're not negotiating with them. Martok growled. Not negotiation. Intelligence gathering. Data's android mind was already calculating possibilities. If we capture rather than kill specific elite commanders, interrogation might yield critical information about Covenant strategy, fleet movements, and internal politics. Picard saw where this was going. You want to conduct raids specifically to capture high-value prisoners. Correct. Starfleet excels at precision operations. We identify isolated Covenant forces, strike with overwhelming tactical superiority, extract prisoners, and retreat before reinforcements arrive. Black Ops, Janeway said thoughtfully. Hit and run. Make them afraid to operate in small groups, and gather intelligence while we're at it. Picard was warming to the idea. Data. Compile a list of potential targets. Martok. Would Klingon forces be willing to participate in capture rather than kill missions? The general's face soured. My warriors prefer to send enemies to Grethor, not take them prisoner. But, if it serves the greater war effort, I can assign specialists. We have commando units trained for such work. Then we have a plan. Janeway moved to the star map. We can't match the Covenant in fleet battles. Not yet, but we can bleed them through asymmetric warfare, while we build our forces for the decisive engagement, which will come at Earth, Picard said quietly. Everyone in the room knew it. The Covenant's ultimate target was obvious. All their probing attacks, all their fleet movements, everything pointed toward humanity's homeworld. How long do we have? Crusher asked. Romulan intelligence suggests 3 weeks, Janeway replied. Maybe less if we inflict too much damage and they decide to accelerate their timetable. Then we use every second. Picard straightened. Data. I want complete tactical profiles on every elite commander we've identified. Janeway. Coordinate with Klingon High Command on special operations taskings. Martok. I know my duty, Picard. Kill Covenant. Take prisoners when useful. Die gloriously if necessary. The Klingon's eye gleamed. Though I prefer the first 2 options. As the meeting broke up and officers returned to their duties, Data remained in the lab, studying the holographic Sunghaili warrior rotating before him. You fight for gods who use you, he said softly to the corpse on the table. We fight for survival. I wonder which motivation proves stronger. The dead elite, of course, offered no answer. But somewhere in Covenant space, Fleet Master Tas Vadum was asking himself the same question. The planet Batazed was dying slowly. Thel Vadum, Supreme Commander of the Fleet of Particular Justice, stood on the bridge of his flagship Seeker of Truth and watched orbital bombardment turn cities to glass. His elite warriors had performed flawlessly. Resistance had been crushed within days. The native population was being systematically eliminated. It was glorious victory. So why did it taste like ash? Fleet Master, his second in command, Ratas Vadum, approached with proper military bearing. The prophets send their congratulations. Batazed has been cleansed. The heresy is purged. Yes. Thel's mandibles twitched an expression of unease. Total victory. The humans' allies are scattered, their defensive positions obliterated. Yet you are troubled, Commander. Thel turned from the viewport. Ratas was more than a subordinate. He was a brother in arms, trusted completely. If anyone could be told these thoughts, it was him. I am troubled by how easily they die, Thel admitted. The Betazoids. They were telepaths, yes? Gifted with mental abilities far beyond normal humans. So, the intelligence report stated, and they surrendered when we landed. Offered no resistance after their orbital defenses fell. Thel's voice dropped. Ritas, I have led warriors for 3 decades. I have fought in 100 campaigns. Never have I conquered a people who simply gave up. They recognize the futility of resistance. It is logical. Is it? Thel pulled up footage from the planetary assault. Betazoid civilians huddled in shelters, broadcasting surrender on all frequencies. Covenant warriors executing them anyway on Prophet orders. What glory is there in slaughtering the defenseless? Ritas said nothing. He didn't need to. The same doubt was in his eyes. The prophets decreed total extermination, Thel continued. No quarter, no mercy, no consideration of surrender. We are not warriors anymore, Artis. We are executioners. Speak carefully, Commander. Such words. I know. Thel's laugh was bitter. Heresy. Questioning the will of the prophets is punishable by death, and yet I cannot silence this voice in my heart that says we dishonor ourselves with this genocide. A chime interrupted them. Communication from High Charity. Thel straightened, composing himself. Patch it through. The holographic form of Tartarus materialized a massive brute in ornate armor, the chieftain of the Jiralhane and personal enforcer to the Prophet of Truth. His eyes gleamed with barely concealed contempt. Fleet Master Vadam, Tartarus growled. The Prophet of Truth wishes to speak with you. Thel's mandibles flared in barely suppressed anger. The brutes were being elevated far beyond their station, given authority that should belong to Sanghaili commanders. It was an insult, but he kept his voice neutral. I am honored to receive the hierarch's words. Truth's form replaced Tartarus Ancient, robed, floating in his gravity throne. Supreme Commander Thel, Vadam, your conquest of Beta Z proceeds as foretold. The humans' allies crumble before Covenant might. The humans and their Klingon allies fight with more ferocity than anticipated, Holy One. They inflict casualties despite inferior numbers and technology. Casualties are irrelevant. Truth's voice was absolutely certain. Every warrior who falls in service to the great journey ascends to paradise. You should envy them their fortune. Of course, Hierarch. Thel kept his face neutral. But might I suggest? You may not. Truth's interruption was soft but absolute. I did not contact you to hear suggestions, Fleet Master. I contacted you to issue new orders. The assault on the human homeworld Earth will commence in 20 days. Your fleet will lead the vanguard. Pride and dread warred in Thel's chest. Leading the attack on humanity's birthworld was the highest honor imaginable. It was also likely a death sentence. I am honored beyond measure, Hierarch. My warriors will. Your warriors will be supplemented by Jiralhane legions under Tartarus's command, Truth continued. Recent campaigns have demonstrated that the Sanghaili, while skilled, sometimes lack the ruthlessness required for total extermination. The brutes will ensure no human escapes. The insult was staggering. Sanghaili effectiveness questioned. Brutes given co-command of his fleet. Thel's voice remained steady through sheer force of will. As the Hierarch commands, see that you do not disappoint me, Fleet Master. The great journey cannot begin while human heresy pollutes the galaxy. Exterminate them all. Hesitation is heresy. The transmission ended. Silence filled the bridge. Every elite present had heard the Hierarch's words, heard their entire species questioned, heard brutes elevated above them. Commander, Ritas said carefully. Your orders? Thel stared at the viewport, watching Beta Z burn. Prepare the fleet, he said finally. We march to Earth as commanded. But inform all shipmasters I want reports on Jiralhane unit commanders assigned to our forces. Detailed reports, who they are, who they report to, where their true loyalties lie. You suspect treachery, I suspect politics. Thel turned to face his second. The prophets play a game that has nothing to do with the great journey, and everything to do with power. We are pieces on a board, Ritas. The Sanghaili, the Jiralhane, all of us, and I will not be sacrificed without understanding why. A new alert chimed. Combat report from the Covenant garrison on Beta Z's surface. Ritas read it and his mandibles spread in confusion. This cannot be correct. What? Our garrison in the capital city reports. They were attacked. By Ungoi. Grunts? Thel couldn't keep the surprise from his voice. That's impossible. Ungoi don't rebel. They're too cowardly. Apparently not anymore. Ruteas brought up the footage. The scene showed chaos in a Covenant-held city. A group of grunts, perhaps 30 of them, had broken from their overseers and attacked a brute execution squad that was killing surrendered Betazoid civilians. The grunts had been slaughtered, of course, but not before killing 3 brutes and allowing several dozen civilians to escape. Why would they do this? Ritas asked. Ungoi follow orders. They don't think independently. Thel watched the footage again, focusing on one grunt in particular. The small methane breather had thrown himself on a brute's back, detonating his own grenades in a suicide attack that took the Jiralhane with him. Martyrdom, Thel said softly. They were willing to die to stop the execution of defenseless beings. But they're Ungoi. They have no concept of honor or benes, don't they? Thel froze the image. Look at his stance. The way he positions himself between the brute and the civilians. That is protection. That is nobility. You give them too much credit, Commander. Perhaps. Or perhaps Thel had given them too little credit all along. There will be more incidents like this, Thel said, deactivating the footage. The closer we push toward Earth, the more resistance we'll face. Not just from humans and their allies, but from within our own ranks. The Ungoi rebellion here is just a symptom. Of what? Of warriors remembering what it means to be warriors, Thel said quietly. Instead of executioners. He turned back to his command chair. Set course for the rendezvous point. We prepare for the assault on Earth as ordered. But Ertas, keep your eyes open. Watch the Jiralhane. Watch the Prophet's communications. Watch everything. And if we find evidence of treachery, Thel's eyes were cold. Then we act accordingly. Prophets or not, I will not lead my warriors to dishonorable death because some ancient fools play political games. It was the closest he'd come to outright heresy. Rattay simply nodded. As you command, Fleet Master. The Seeker of Truth broke orbit, joining the growing Covenant armada assembling for the final push toward Earth. But in Thel Vadam's heart, doubt had taken root, and once planted, doubt grows. The ice planet Andoria hung in space like a blue-white pearl, its frozen oceans gleaming under the light of its distant star. The planet was home to one of the Federation's founding species, and a major shipyard producing desperately needed vessels. It was also the Covenant's next target. Fleet entering sensor range. Lieutenant Commander Data reported from the Enterprise bridge. 73 Covenant vessels on approach vector to Andoria. Composition: 15 capital carriers, 38 cruisers, 20 destroyers. Picard studied the tactical display with grim satisfaction. For once, they'd anticipated the enemy's move. Romulan intelligence had provided the target. Federation and Klingon fleets had assembled in hiding, waiting. Our forces? 97 ships total, Worf answered. 42 Starfleet vessels, 55 Klingon. We outnumber them. Barely. Riker stood beside the captain's chair. And we still don't match their firepower. Then, we match their ferocity. Martok's voice came over the communication channel, his face filling the view screen from the bridge of the Negvar. This is where we make our stand, Picard. This is where we show them we can fight. Agreed. Picard opened fleet-wide channels. All ships, this is Captain Picard. The Covenant expects easy prey. We'll give them war instead. Federation vessels will focus on their capital ships, use our superior maneuverability to flank and disable. Klingon forces, you have the cruiser screen. With pleasure. Martok's grin was savage. All wings, attack formation. Today is a good day for someone else to die. Engage. The combined fleet surged forward. The Covenant fleet dropped out of slipspace in perfect parade formation, carriers at center, cruisers in protective formation, destroyers on the flanks. Beautiful, precise, tactically foolish. They're not adapting to our numbers, Data observed. Standard formation despite facing larger force. Their arrogance is our advantage. Picard leaned forward. All ships, execute flanking pattern Delta. Hit them from multiple vectors simultaneously. The Federation fleet split into 4 wings, each approaching from different angles. The Klingon forces drove straight up the middle in one massive wedge. The Covenant, locked into their doctrinal formation, struggled to respond. Target their lead carrier, Picard ordered. Full-spread quantum torpedoes. The Enterprise unleashed hell. Torpedoes streaked across the void, slamming into the Covenant carrier's shields. Other Federation ships added their fire-concentrated volleys from multiple angles, exactly as Data had predicted would overwhelm their rotating shield frequencies. The carrier's shields collapsed. Secondary explosions rippled across its hull. Direct hit. Worf's voice held satisfaction. Their shields are failing, but the Covenant weren't helpless. Plasma torpedoes answered, lancing through space. A Miranda-class frigate vanished in a fireball. 2 more ships took critical damage. Evasive Pattern Alpha. Picard gripped his armrest as the Enterprise rolled, dodging incoming fire. Return fire, all weapons. In the center of the battle, Martok's wedge crashed into the Covenant cruiser screen like a hammer into glass. Disruptors blazed, torpedoes flew, ships exploded on both sides. Glorious! Martok roared, his ship trading broadside with a Covenant cruiser at point-blank range. Die well, you bastards. The Naegvar's forward disruptor array carved through the enemy cruiser's midsection. The ship split in 2, both halves tumbling away, trailing atmosphere and bodies. But Covenant reinforcements were arriving. More ships dropped from Slipspace Fleetmaster TAS, Vadum's reinforcement group, arriving exactly on schedule. Enemy reinforcements, Data called out. 32 additional vessels. Now the Covenant had numerical superiority again. We're not retreating, Picard said before anyone could suggest it. Signal all ships hold formation, focus fire, make every shot count. The battle descended into brutal chaos. Ships wheeled and died. Plasma and phaser fire lit up the void. Debris clouds expanded as vessels on both sides were torn apart. On the Covenant flagship, Ritas Vadum commanded with cold precision. He'd studied the Federation and Klingon tactics from previous engagements. He knew their patterns. Target their heavy cruisers, he ordered. Disable engines first, then destroy at leisure. And launch all fighters clear their fighter screens so our plasma batteries have clean shots. Hundreds of Banshee fighters poured from Covenant carriers. They swarmed the battlefield, targeting Federation and Klingon fighters in whirling dogfights. Casualties mounting, Worf reported. We've lost 14 ships. Covenant losses at 17. The numbers were too close. This would be a battle of attrition, and attrition favored whoever could sustain losses longer. Target their command ship, Picard ordered. The carrier broadcasting on all Covenant frequencies. That's Ritas Vadum's flagship. Take it out, and their coordination fails. Affirmative. Worf locked weapons. Firing. Every weapon the Enterprise had struck simultaneously. Quantum torpedoes, phaser arrays, concentrated death. Rataeus's shields flared but held. The elite commander was too experienced to be caught by surprise. Return fire, Ritas ordered calmly. Disable that vessel. Plasma torpedoes hammered the Enterprise. Shields dropped to 40%. The ship shuddered. Auxiliary power to shields. Geordi LaForge's voice came from engineering. I'm giving you everything I can, Captain. Keep firing. Picard refused to break off. This was it, the decisive moment. Whoever flinched first would lose. The 2 ships pounded each other at close range. Shields failing, armor burning, crew dying on both sides. Then Martok's voice cut through the chaos. Picard, I'm coming through. The Naegvar, massive and battered, crashed through the Covenant formation like an avalanche. It positioned itself between the Enterprise and Ritas's carrier, absorbing fire meant for Picard's ship. Now, Martok roared. Hit them now while they're focused on me. Picard didn't hesitate. All ships, target the command carrier, everything you have. 20 Federation ships concentrated fire. The Covenant carrier's shields couldn't handle it. They collapsed in a cascade failure. Ritas saw death coming. Brace for. The volley hit. Explosions tore through the carrier's superstructure. The ship listed, engines failing, fire blooming from breached sections. Their command ship is crippled, Data announced. And just like that, the Covenant formation wavered. Without Artas's coordination, individual ships fell back on standard doctrine, rigid, predictable, exploitable. Press the attack, Picard ordered. Don't give them time to reorganize. The combined fleet surged forward. The next hour was brutal, but the Covenant were on the defensive now. Ship after ship fell to concentrated fire. Finally, the remaining Covenant forces broke off. "They're retreating," someone shouted. Picard watched the enemy ships jump to slip space, limping away with heavy damage. Ras. Vadam's crippled carrier managed to jump last, barely holding together. "Pursuit?" Worf asked. "No." Picard slumped in his chair, suddenly exhausted. "Let them go. We've done enough." The view screen showed the aftermath. Debris fields, bodies floating in the void, burning wrecks. "Casualty report," Picard said quietly. Data's voice was somber. 23 Allied ships destroyed, 41 damaged. Covenant losses, 31 destroyed, approximately 15 damaged, including their command ship. They'd won. Barely. At tremendous cost. But they'd won. Martok's face appeared on screen, blood running down his face, armor cracked, grinning like a madman. "Victory, Picard. Glorious, bloody victory. The Covenant learned today that we don't fall easily." "Yes." Picard managed a tired smile. "Yes, they did." On his damaged carrier, limping toward High Charity for repairs, Ritas Vadum stood before his command throne and assessed the battle. He'd been defeated. For the first time in his military career, he'd retreated from the field. The humans and their allies had learned, adapted, fought with coordination and cunning that matched Sangheili tactical doctrine. "They are not vermin to be exterminated," he said softly to his second-in-command. "They are warriors, true warriors. Should we report this to the prophets?" Ardas hesitated. "Then, report that we engaged superior numbers and retreated to preserve fleet strength for the assault on Earth. Nothing more. Because if the prophets learned that he respected the enemy, that he questioned their extermination mandate, that he wondered if perhaps the humans deserved honorable combat rather than genocide, that would be heresy. And heresy meant death. The Battle of Andoria was over, but the cracks in the Covenant were beginning to show. High Charity, the holy city of the Covenant, hung in space like a massive mushroom-shaped cathedral. Its surface gleamed with precious metals and ancient Forerunner technology. Inside its halls, the prophets held court and dispensed divine wisdom. Today, that wisdom took the form of scapegoating. The prophet of truth floated in the High Council chamber, surrounded by lesser prophets and religious officials. Before him, holographic displays showed the defeat at Andoria in brutal detail. Ships destroyed. Warriors killed. The fleet forced to retreat. Unacceptable. Truth's voice echoed through the chamber. The humans grow bolder. Their resistance stiffens. All because the Sangheili fail in their sacred duty. In the shadows, Tartarus watched with barely concealed satisfaction. "The elites are too soft." The brute chieftain rumbled. "They hesitate, show mercy where none should be given. They speak of honor and worthy opponents when they should speak only of extermination." Indeed. Truth's ancient eyes gleamed. Fleet Master Artas Vadam's report describes tactical withdrawal in the face of superior numbers. But I see cowardice. I see Sangheili commanders who doubt the righteousness of our cause. A lesser prophet spoke up hesitantly. "Holy One, the Sangheili have served the Covenant faithfully for millennia. Perhaps this defeat was merely what?" Truth's voice could freeze stars. "A temporary setback? No. It is a symptom of deeper rot. The elites have grown comfortable in their position. They forget that they serve the great journey, not their own pride." Tartarus stepped forward, his massive form dominating the chamber. "Give the word, Hierarch, and the Jiralhane will succeed where the Sangheili fail. We do not question, we do not doubt. We simply kill until none remain." Truth considered this with theatrical slowness. Of course, he'd already made his decision. This entire meeting was performance for the lesser prophets, establishing justification for what came next. "Very well," Truth declared. "Tartarus, you are hereby elevated to Supreme Commander of Covenant Ground Forces. The Jiralhane will lead our armies. The Sangheili," he paused for effect, "will serve under brute command." The announcement was staggering. In 3,000 years of Covenant history, the elites had always held military supremacy. Now, in one decree, they were subordinated to the brutes. "Holy One, A prophet counselor said carefully. The Sangheili will not accept this without protest. They will accept what I decree, or they will be declared heretics. Truth's voice was absolute. I have spoken. The Jiralane are the new sword of the prophets. Tartarus knelt, his face split in a vicious grin. We will not fail you, hierarch. The humans will burn. Every last one. See that they do. Truth waved dismissal. You have 20 days until the assault on Earth. Use them to reorganize our forces. Replace elite commanders who show weakness. Install Jiralhane who show enthusiasm. With pleasure. As the meeting dispersed, Tartarus walked through High Charity's corridors with his brute bodyguards. They passed elite honor guards who watched with barely concealed fury. The brutes sneered at them openly. The age of the elites is over. Tartarus announced loudly enough for all to hear. The age of the Jiralhane begins. One elite moved to respond. His brute replacement struck him across the face, sending the elite sprawling. Know your place, the brute growled. Or learn it the hard way. The elite's hand went to his plasma sword. A dozen weapons trained on him instantly, both brute and elite. The tension was explosive. Stand down. An elite officer pushed through the crowd. All of you, stand down. This serves no one. Slowly, reluctantly, weapons were lowered. The brute swaggered away, laughing. The elite officer helped his fellow warrior to his feet. This is an outrage, the younger elite hissed. We should obey the prophet's will, the officer said firmly. But his mandibles twitched the elite equivalent of a grimace. For now, word of the change spread through the Covenant fleet like wildfire. Elite shipmasters received new orders. Accept brute co-commanders or be relieved of duty. Sangheili ground forces would serve under Jiralhane tactical authority. It was humiliation. Deliberate, calculated humiliation. And it was working. On his repaired flagship, Fleetmaster Rurdas Vadim read the new command structure with mounting disbelief. This cannot be, he said to his bridge crew. We have served faithfully for thousands of years. One defeat, one strategic withdrawal, and we are punished thus. His weapons officer spoke carefully. Perhaps the hierarchs see things we do not. Perhaps there is no wisdom in this. Rurdas slammed his fist down. There is politics. The prophets use brutes to threaten us into absolute obedience. They create rivals to keep us weak. Fleetmaster, his second warned, such words are dangerous. Truth is always dangerous. Rurdas pulled up reports from across the fleet. Look at this. Elite commanders removed from 17 ships, replaced by brutes with a fraction of our experience. Our tactics questioned, our valor doubted. All because we dared to fight with honor instead of mindless slaughter. The bridge was silent. Every elite present thought the same thing. None dared say it aloud. Where is Supreme Commander Thel Vadim? Rurdas asked. He leads the assault on Earth. What does he say about this? He says nothing. The communications officer brought up the message. He has accepted a brute co-commander without comment. He follows the prophet's will. Rurdas stared at the message. Thel, the greatest elite warrior of their generation, accepting this humiliation without protest? No. Something was wrong. Get me a secure channel to the Supreme Commander's ship. Eyes only, no brute monitors. That may be impossible, Fleetmaster. The Jiralhane have been given access to all communication systems. Then make it possible. Rurdas's voice was steel. I will speak to Thel Vadim. If he truly accepts this restructuring, I will obey. But I must hear it from him directly. It took hours, but finally a scrambled channel opened. Thel Vadim's face appeared, his expression unreadable. Rurdas, I assume you're calling about our new brute overlords, Supreme Commander. I speak freely, Thel interrupted. This channel is secure. For now. Rurdas let his anger show. This is madness. The prophets punish all Sangheili for one tactical reverse. They elevate brutes above us. They question our loyalty. Yes, Thel's voice was quiet. They do all of that, and you know why? No, because they fear us. Thel leaned closer to the screen. Think, Ritas. We are the warriors. We command the ships. We lead the armies. If we ever questioned the Prophet's authority, truly questioned it, what could they do? They have no military power of their own. So they create rivals. They divide us. They make us compete with brutes for scraps of favor. Then we should wait, Thel said firmly, and watch, and prepare. The assault on Earth comes in 20 days. I will lead that assault as ordered. But Artaz, his eyes hardened. Keep your best warriors close. Keep your ships ready. And if the prophets betray us, truly betray us, be prepared to act. Act how? That depends on how far the prophets are willing to go. Thel's mandibles spread in what might have been a grim smile. But I suspect we'll find out soon enough. The transmission ended. Ritas sat in his command chair, processing the conversation. Thel, Vadam, the most loyal Sangheili in the Covenant, was preparing for possible betrayal by the prophets themselves. The implications were staggering. Fleet Master, his second-in-command approached cautiously. Your orders? Prepare the fleet for Earth as commanded, Ritas said. But also prepare for contingencies. If I give the order to disengage from Covenant command structure and operate independently, I need every ship ready to follow instantly. That would be mutiny. That would be survival. Radias stared at the stars. The Covenant is fracturing, my friend. The prophets and brutes on one side, Sangheili on the other. Soon we'll have to choose which side we're on. And if the prophets order us to stand down, to submit to brute authority completely, Ritas's eyes were cold. Then we'll know the prophets value power more than the great journey, and we'll have our answer. The fleet continued preparing for Earth, but now, everyone was watching everyone else. The Covenant was eating itself from within, and the cracks were becoming chasms. The Covenant fleet assembled in the void beyond Neptune, the largest armada ever gathered in the galaxy's recorded history. 347 warships, their hulls gleaming purple and silver, weapons charged, warriors ready for the final cleansing of humanity's birth world. At the fleet's center, aboard the supercarrier Solemn Penance, the Prophet of Regret floated in his gravity throne and contemplated glory. The humans cower on their homeworld. He declared to his assembled commanders, a mix of elite and brute officers eyeing each other with barely concealed hostility. Today, we complete the great journey's most sacred task. Today, we erase the heresy of humanity from existence. Supreme Commander Thel, Vadam, stood among the elite commanders, his face impassive. Beside him, the brute co-commander Bractanus sneered openly. The Sangheili had their chance to end this war, the brute rumbled. They failed. Now the Jiralane will show them how it's done. Thel's hand twitched toward his energy sword. Stopped. Not yet. The assault will proceed in 3 waves, Regret continued, oblivious to the tension. First wave destroys orbital defenses. Second wave establishes air superiority. Third wave commences surface bombardment. I will personally lead the vanguard. Holy One, Thel interrupted, his voice carefully neutral. Perhaps it would be wiser for you to command from the rear. Your divine wisdom is too valuable to risk in the initial assault. Regret's eyes flashed. Are you questioning my courage, Fleet Master? Never. I question only the strategic wisdom of placing our spiritual leader in harm's way. I will not hide while warriors fight in my name. Regret's voice rose. The Prophet of Truth may command from safety, but I am not truth. I will show these humans the face of their destroyer. Around the chamber, elite and brute commanders exchanged glances. Regret's declaration wasn't just battlefield bravado, it was a political statement, a challenge to truth's authority. The Covenant hierarchy was fracturing at the top. As the hierarch commands, Thel said with a bow. But his mind was racing. Regret, attacking Earth against Truth's strategic timeline? This wasn't coordinated. This was impulsive, reckless, and it was going to get them all killed. The fleet jumped to slip space. Earth's orbital defenses had been preparing for this moment for weeks. 300 Starfleet vessels, 170 Klingon warbirds, and hidden in cloaked positions around the moon, 22 Romulan warbirds waited. Admiral Ross commanded from Space Dock 1, now converted into a fortress bristling with weapons. "They're coming," he said simply. "All ships, battle stations. This is what we've been preparing for. Make every shot count." Captain Picard stood on the Enterprise bridge, Data at his side running final tactical calculations. "Probability of Earth's survival?" Picard asked quietly. "Based on current force distributions, 32%. Data's android face showed something like regret. "We are significantly outnumbered. Then we make ourselves count for more." Picard opened fleet-wide channels. "All ships, this is Captain Picard. They've come to destroy our homeworld. Everyone we've ever known, everyone we've ever loved, is down there. We don't retreat. We don't surrender. We fight until the last ship falls." "Inspiring speech," Riker said quietly. "Think it'll work? It has to." Space ripped open. The Covenant fleet emerged, and hell came with it. Regret didn't waste time with speeches or demands. The moment his fleet achieved stable orbits, he gave the order. "Fire everything." 300 Covenant warships unleashed hell on Earth's defenses. Plasma torpedoes lit up the void. Energy beams carved through space. The orbital platforms returned fire, their shields flaring under the onslaught. "All ships engage," Ross ordered. "Target their capital ships." The Federation fleet surged forward. The Klingons followed with characteristic fury. Energy weapons and torpedoes filled the space between Earth and its attackers. The first Covenant carrier exploded in a fireball visible from the surface. Then a second. The defenders were making the invaders pay for every meter. But there were so many of them. "Covenant forces breaking through Sector 7, Data reported. "Multiple ships heading for the surface." "Intercept them," Picard ordered. The Enterprise drove into the gap, phasers blazing. A Covenant cruiser took the full force of a quantum torpedo spread and shattered. But 3 more pushed through. On the solemn penance, Regret watched his warriors die and felt only pride. "Press forward. The great journey demands sacrifice." "Holy One," Thel spoke up carefully, "our losses are mounting. Perhaps we should consolidate, and I did not ask for your counsel." Regret spun on him. "The assault continues. Or do you lack the faith to carry out the Prophet's will?" It was a direct challenge. Refuse, and be branded heretic. Accept, and watch more warriors die for Regret's ego. Thel chose a third option. "I have faith in the great journey," he said slowly, "but I question whether charging into superior defensive positions serves that journey. This feels less like divine will and more like—" He paused deliberately. "Personal glory." The chamber went silent. Every commander, elite and brute alike, stared at Thel in shock. He'd just accused a prophet of vanity. Regret's face twisted with rage. "How dare!" The ship rocked as Federation torpedoes hammered the shields. "Hull breaches on decks 9 through 12. A technician shouted. "Shields failing. All power to shields," Regret screamed. "I will not be denied my—" The bridge exploded. A Klingon boarding party, led by Martok himself, materialized in a transporter beam. They'd beamed directly through the failing shields, appearing in a shower of sparks. "For the Empire!" Martok roared, Batleth already swinging. Chaos erupted. Brute guards charged. Elite warriors drew energy swords. Disruptors and plasma rifles filled the air with death. Martok carved through the defenders like a force of nature, heading straight for Regret's gravity throne. "Protect the Hierarch," Bractanus bellowed, his brutes forming a wall. But Martok was unstoppable. His Batleth took a brute's head. His disruptor blasted another. He crashed through their line and drove his blade through Regret's chest. The Prophet gasped, purple blood spraying, his eyes wide with disbelief. "Impossible," he whispered. I was meant for glory. You got death instead." Martok ripped the blade free. "Not so divine now, are you?" Regret slumped in his throne. Dead. A prophet. Dead. Killed by an alien warrior. For 3,000 years, the prophets had been untouchable, sacred, divine, and Martok had just killed one like it was nothing. "Emergency transport." Thel was already moving. "Get us out of here. The surviving bridge crew vanished in transporter beams as the solemn penance began tearing itself apart. Its shields completely failed, Federation and Klingon ships hammering it from all sides. The massive carrier broke in half, both sections tumbling toward Earth's atmosphere where they would burn up. The prophet of regret, who'd sought glory, got only death. News of Regret's death spread through the Covenant fleet like wildfire. For a moment, the assault faltered. Warriors questioned, hesitated. On High Charity, the prophet of truth received the news and smiled. "How unfortunate," he said, his voice dripping false sympathy. "Brother Regret's impulsiveness has cost him his life." Clearly, the Sangheili failed to protect him adequately. Tartarus bowed. "A tragic failure by the elites, Holy One." "Indeed." Truth's eyes gleamed. "And failures must be punished." Tartarus. New orders. All Sangheili commanders in the Earth Assault Fleet are to be relieved of duty. Immediately. The Jiralhanae will assume full command, and if the elites refuse, then they reveal themselves as heretics. Truth's smile was cold. "And we know how to deal with heretics, don't we?" Tartarus's grin was savage. "Yes, Holy One, we do." The orders went out on encrypted channels, brute only. Elite commanders across the fleet began receiving notifications that they were relieved of command, to be replaced by Jiralhanae officers. But some received a different message. "Eliminate all Sangheili command staff. Leave no survivors. The age of the elites is over." It was a purge order, genocide. On the assault carrier Incorruptible, Fleet Master Artis Vadam was studying tactical displays when his brute co-commander entered the bridge with a dozen armed Jiralhanae. "You are relieved of command," the brute announced. "Surrender your weapons." Riteas didn't move. "On whose authority?" "The prophet of truth. The Sangheili have failed for the last time. The Jiralhanae now lead the Covenant's military." Riteas saw the weapons trained on him, saw the determination in the brute's eyes, saw death coming. "I see." His hand moved slowly toward his energy sword. "And if I refuse, then you die." The brute raised his plasma rifle. Riteas drew and activated his sword in one fluid motion, the blue energy blade humming to life. He crossed the distance between them in a blur, the blade slicing through the brute's rifle and then his torso. "All Sangheili," Riteas roared. "They mean to kill us all. Defend yourselves." The bridge erupted in violence. Elite warriors against brute executioners. Energy swords against gravity hammers. 3,000 years of alliance shattered in seconds of blood and betrayal. Across the fleet, the same scene played out on dozens of ships. Brutes attempting to execute elite commanders. Elites fighting back. Ships tearing themselves apart from within as civil war exploded. Supreme Commander Thel Vadam had been on his personal shuttle, returning from the solemn penance evacuation when Tartarus himself appeared on his view screen. "Thel Vadam," the brute chieftain said with false courtesy, "you are hereby ordered to report to High Charity to answer for your failure to protect the prophet of regret." Thel understood immediately. Report to High Charity meant die on High Charity. "I respectfully decline." That was not a request. Tartarus's facade dropped. "It was your death sentence. The Sangheili are finished. The prophets have decreed it. Surrender and die quickly, or resist and die slowly. I choose a third option." Thel cut the transmission and turned to his pilot. "Set course for the outer system, maximum speed, and send a message to all Sangheili forces. We have been betrayed. The prophets have ordered our extermination. Any elite who values their life should disengage immediately." "Commander, that's mutiny, heresy, treason against the Covenant." Thel's voice was hard. "I know. But the Covenant died the moment the prophets ordered the deaths of those who served them faithfully for 3 millennia. Now, we survive, or we die. Those are our only choices." The shuttle's engines flared. It vanished into the chaos of the battle, pursued by a dozen brute fighters. On Earth's surface, billions watched the battle in the skies, saw Covenant ships exploding, saw Federation vessels dying, saw something else too, saw Covenant ships firing on each other. Admiral Ross watched the tactical displays in disbelief. "They're fighting each other," he breathed. The Covenant fleet is tearing itself apart. Confirmed. Data reported from the Enterprise. Multiple Covenant vessels are engaging in internecine combat. Analysis suggests factional warfare between elite and brute forces. Picard's mind raced. They're having a civil war. Right now, in the middle of our battle. Then we use it. Ross's voice was steel. All ships, focus fire on vessels still targeting Earth. Let the Covenant kill each other. The strategy worked. While elite and brute ships savaged each other, the Federation Klingon fleet concentrated on the Covenant forces still attempting to bombard Earth. The tide was turning. In the chaos, Thel's shuttle was caught by Tartarus's fighters. Plasma fire tore through his engines. The craft spiraled out of control. This is Supreme Commander Thel 'Vadam. He broadcast on all Sangheili frequencies. I am being hunted by the brutes on the Prophet's orders. They mean to kill all elites. Resist. Fight. Sir. Plasma torpedoes hit. The shuttle exploded. Thel materialized on an escape pod milliseconds before the blast, the emergency transport barely saving his life. But the shuttle and everyone in it was gone. Commander. Ratas Vadum's voice came over the pod's communication system. I'm tracking your pod. Hold on. The Incorruptible dove through the battle, its hull scarred from fighting both Federation forces and brute vessels. Its tractor beam grabbed Thel's pod and pulled it into the hangar. Thel stumbled onto the deck, his armor scorched, but alive. Report, he ordered immediately. Civil war, Ratas said simply. The brutes are attempting to kill all elite commanders. We're fighting back. But we're outnumbered and outgunned. Half our fleet is gone. The Prophets have turned the Covenant against us. Thel looked around the hangar. Dozens of elite warriors, his warriors stared at him, waiting for orders, waiting for hope. Then the Covenant is dead to us, he said, his voice carrying across the deck. We no longer serve prophets who betray their most loyal soldiers. We serve ourselves, our honor, our survival. What are your orders, Supreme Commander? Thel's mandibles spread in something like a smile. We have a new enemy now, not the humans, the prophets, Truth and his brute dogs. They want us dead? We'll show them what happens when they wake sleeping warriors. He turned to the communications officer. Can you reach the human fleet? Perhaps. If we broadcast on their standard channels, do it. Thel straightened his armor. It's time we had a conversation with our former enemies. The bridge of the Enterprise was in controlled chaos when an incoming transmission appeared on an unusual frequency. Captain, Data said, surprise evident in his voice. We're receiving a communication from a Covenant vessel, the Incorruptible. They're requesting parley. It's a trap, Worf growled. Perhaps. Picard stood. But they're also in the middle of fighting their own people. Data? Analysis? The vessel in question has engaged multiple brute-commanded ships. It appears to be fleeing the battle zone rather than attacking Earth. Put them through. The view screen flickered. An elite warrior appeared tall, powerful, his armor bearing the marks of high command. Thel 'Vadam. I am Supreme Commander Thel, 'Vadam of the Sangheili forces, he began without preamble. I request immediate parley under flag of truce. You'll forgive me if I'm skeptical, Picard replied coldly. Your forces have been trying to exterminate humanity for weeks. My forces followed orders from the Prophets, orders I now recognize as wrong. Thel's mandibles twitched. The Prophets have betrayed the Sangheili, ordered our execution because we questioned their wisdom. We are no longer part of the Covenant. Convenient timing, Riker muttered. Not convenience. Survival. Thel's eyes were hard. You have an expression, I believe. The enemy of my enemy is my friend. The Prophet of Truth and his brute lackeys want both of our species dead. Perhaps we should work together to ensure they fail. Picard studied the elite commander. Every instinct screamed trap, but Data's tactical displays showed the truth. The Covenant fleet was destroying itself. Civil war raged in Earth's orbit. What are you proposing? An alliance. Temporary, tactical, focused solely on destroying the Prophet of Truth and preventing further slaughter. Thel paused. I know you have no reason to trust me. I have killed your people. But I also know that Truth will not stop with the Sangheili. He will continue hunting humans until every world you hold burns. We both want him dead. That is common ground. And after Truth is dead? After. Thel's laugh was bitter. If we survive that long, we can discuss what comes after. For now, I offer intelligence on Covenant fleet movements, tactical data on their weapons and defenses, and Sangheili warriors who know how to fight the brutes. In exchange, I ask for one thing. What? Asylum. For Sangheili who reject the Covenant's genocide. We have nowhere else to go. The request hung in the air. Picard looked at his crew. Worf shook his head. Don't trust them. Data looked thoughtful. Riker remained neutral. I need to consult with Starfleet Command, Picard said finally. Stand by. He muted the channel and turned to his crew. Opinions? It's a trap, Worf repeated. The elites are warriors. They do not surrender. They're not surrendering, Data observed. They're seeking alliance against a mutual enemy. Tactically sound given their current position. And we need every advantage we can get, Riker added. Even if we don't trust them completely, the intelligence alone could be invaluable. Picard opened a channel to Admiral Ross. Admiral, we have a situation. 3 hours later, in a secure conference room on Deep Space Nine chosen as neutral ground, an unprecedented meeting took place. On one side, Captain Picard, Admiral Ross, Captain Sisko, Chancellor Martok, and Commander Donatra representing Romulan interests. On the other, Supreme Commander Thel, Vadam, Fleetmaster, Ritas Vadam, and 2 other elite shipmasters. The tension was thick enough to cut. Martok spoke first, his voice hostile. I killed your prophet. Why shouldn't I kill you too? Because I would have killed Regret myself given the opportunity, Thel replied evenly. He was a fool who led warriors to pointless death. You saved me the trouble. You expect us to believe you hated your own leaders? Ross's skepticism was clear. I expect you to believe evidence. Ratas activated a holographic display. This is High Charity, the Covenant capital. 20 hours ago, the Prophet of Truth ordered the extermination of all Sangheili military commanders. Not reassignment, not demotion, execution. We have recordings of brutes murdering elite shipmasters who'd served the Covenant for decades. The hologram showed scene after scene of violence, brutes attacking elites, plasma swords versus gravity hammers, ships burning as crews killed each other. 3,000 years, Thel said quietly. For 3,000 years, the Sangheili served the prophets faithfully. We conquered worlds in their name, died by the millions for their great journey. And the moment we questioned whether genocide was truly divine will, they tried to kill us all. Boo-hoo, Martok said flatly. You slaughtered billions of our people. Now you want sympathy because your masters turned on you. I want nothing but your practical understanding, Thel shot back. I do not ask forgiveness. I do not ask friendship. I ask for temporary alliance against a threat to both our peoples. Sisko leaned forward. Say we believe you. Say we accept this alliance. What do you bring to the table? Ritas brought up new data. Complete tactical analysis of Covenant fleet doctrine, weapons specifications, shield frequencies, command protocols. Everything we know, and this. Thel highlighted a massive structure on the hologram. High Charity, the heart of the Covenant, where Truth plans his war from safety. We know its defenses, its vulnerabilities, its exact location. The room went silent. You're offering to help us attack their capital, Ross said slowly. I'm offering to help you kill the Prophet of Truth before he kills us all, Thel corrected. High Charity is defended by over 200 ships. Truth has surrounded himself with brute loyalists. He believes himself untouchable. He's right, Donatra spoke for the first time. Your combined fleets can barely defend Earth. You want to launch an offensive against a fortress? With Sangheili help? Yes. Ritas zoomed in on specific sections. We know the patrol routes, the defensive gaps, the exact locations of shield generators and weapon batteries. Give us a fleet, and we can guide you through. Picard studied the data. This is suicide. This is war, Thel replied. And war demands sacrifice. But consider, if Truth lives, he will rebuild his fleet, hunt down every Sangheili, continue exterminating humans. He will not stop until the galaxy is cleansed to his satisfaction. We can wait for him to come to us again. Or we take the fight to him. Sisko finished. Cut the head off the snake. Martok slammed his fist on the table. I like it. Finally, we go on the offensive. It's incredibly risky, Ross said. We'd be leaving Earth potentially vulnerable. The Romulan fleet can defend Earth, Dinatra said quietly. Everyone turned to her. We have 43 warbirds in the sector now. If your forces attack High Charity, we'll protect your homeworld. Why? Picard asked. Why would Romulus commit to this? Because Truth's genocide doesn't stop with humans. Dinatra's voice was ice. Eventually, he'll turn toward Romulan space. Better to kill him now while we have elite allies who know his defenses. The pieces were falling into place. A mad, desperate plan. An alliance of former enemies. A strike at the very heart of Covenant power. We'll need time to assemble a fleet, Ross said. And I'll need approval from the Federation Council. We don't have much time, Thel warned. Truth is already consolidating power. Every day we wait, his position strengthens. Then we move fast. Picard stood. 3 days. We gather every ship we can spare, coordinate with Sangheili forces, and plan the assault. He extended his hand across the table. Thel looked at it. The human gesture of alliance, of trust. His mandibles spread in what might have been a smile. He grasped Picard's hand. 3 days, he agreed. And then we make Truth pay for his betrayal. The meeting adjourned. As the group separated, Worf approached Thel. I fought one of your warriors on a boarding action, the Klingon said. He was skilled. He died well, as all Sangheili strive to do. Thel regarded Worf with respect. You are a warrior people, yes? Like us, we are Klingon. We live for battle. Then perhaps, when this is over and Truth is dead, our peoples might find understanding, not friendship, but respect between warriors. Worf considered this, then nodded once. Perhaps it wasn't much, but it was a start. The alliance was formed. Now came the hard part, surviving what came next. The combined fleet assembled in the Epsilon Eridani system, 123 ships representing the strangest alliance the galaxy had ever seen. Federation cruisers flew alongside Klingon birds of prey. Romulan warbirds maintained position near Sangheili assault carriers that had just days ago been trying to kill them all. Admiral Ross commanded from the USS Venture. Beside him, holographically linked, stood Picard, Martok, and Thel Vadam. Final tactical briefing, Ross began. Thel, walk us through it one more time. The elite commander brought up High Charity on the tactical display. The massive station hung in space like a mushroom-shaped cathedral, surrounded by defensive platforms and patrol ships. High Charity is protected by 207 warships, primarily Brute-commanded vessels loyal to Truth. The station itself has shields powerful enough to withstand sustained bombardment from your entire fleet. Wonderful, Martok muttered. So we die gloriously but pointlessly. Not if we follow the plan. Thel highlighted specific sections. The station's shields have a rotation frequency we can exploit. During the rotation gap, which lasts approximately 43 seconds every 6 minutes, a small strike team could penetrate the shields and land directly on the station's surface. 43 seconds? Picard frowned. That's not much time. It's enough for 3 ships. Rites. Vadam appeared on the display. Sangheili assault shuttles are designed for rapid insertion. We can make it through. Once inside, you fight your way to the control center. Shut down the shields from within, and we pour through, Sisko summarized. He was leading one of the strike teams. Simple. Suicidal but simple. The fleet's job is to occupy the defensive forces, Ross continued. Keep them busy while the strike teams infiltrate. Once the shields are down, all ships concentrate fire on the command tower here. He indicated Truth's sanctum. We don't leave until that structure is vapor. And if Truth escapes? Dinatra asked. He won't. Thel's voice was cold certainty. I will kill him myself. That is my oath. I want him too, Martok growled. The Klingon Empire has a claim on prophet blood. Then we race, Thel said with dark humor. First to reach Truth gets the honor of ending him. The plan was set. The fleet would jump in 30 minutes. On the Enterprise, Picard gathered his senior staff. "I'll be honest," he said quietly. "This is the most dangerous mission Starfleet has ever undertaken. Our chances of survival are not good." "Then we'd better make it count," Riker replied. Data spoke up. "Captain, I have calculated that my presence on the strike team would increase success probability by 17%. I should go." "Denied." Picard's voice was firm. "I need you on the Enterprise, coordinating fleet movements." "Then I should go," Worf said. "I have experience fighting elites in close combat." Picard nodded slowly. "Agreed. You'll join Commander Sisko's team. But Worf, come back alive. That's an order." "I will do my best, Captain." The officers dispersed to their stations. Picard sat in his ready room for one quiet moment, staring at the stars. "Computer, record personal log. Stardate 58,442.7. He paused. "We're about to attack the Covenant's capital with a fleet cobbled together from species who were enemies weeks ago. If we fail, Earth and a dozen other worlds will fall. If we succeed, we might just survive this war." He closed the log, stood, straightened his uniform. Time to see if the enemy of my enemy really can be my friend. The fleet dropped out of warp at High Charity's coordinates. Immediately, alarms shrieked across every ship. The Covenant Defense Fleet was larger than expected, 230 ships, not 207. "They knew we were coming," Ross said grimly. "Of course they did." Thel's voice was unsurprised. "Truth has spies everywhere. But it doesn't matter. We proceed anyway." "All ships, engage," Ross ordered. "Make them look at us, not the strike teams." The combined fleet surged forward. The Covenant Defense Fleet responded with coordinated precision. Brute commanders might lack elite finesse, but they made up for it with raw aggression. Space became a maze of energy, fire, and explosions. Ships wheeled and died on both sides. The Enterprise led a Federation wing straight into the teeth of the defense, drawing fire away from the strike team's insertion point. "Shields at 70%, Worf called from tactical. "Multiple enemy vessels converging. Evasive pattern Delta," Picard ordered. "Keep them focused on us." Meanwhile, 3 Sangheili assault shuttles slipped through the chaos, guided by Ritas Vadam's intimate knowledge of High Charity's defenses. 30 seconds to shield rotation, Ritas announced calmly. "Prepare for insertion." In the lead shuttle, Commander Sisko checked his phaser rifle. Around him sat an unlikely strike team. Klingon warriors, Starfleet Special Forces, and Sangheili elites who'd served the Covenant their entire lives and now fought to destroy it. "Remember," Sisko said, "once we're inside, we move fast. No stopping, no mercy. We get to that control room, or we die trying." A massive Sangheili warrior named Zuka Refum activated his energy sword. "A fine day to die, human commander." "I'd prefer a fine day to win," Sisko replied. "That too," Zuka agreed with what might have been a grin. 5 seconds, Ritas called. "Brace for now." The shuttles punched through the shield gap, plasma wash scorching their hulls. They slammed into High Charity's surface, cutting torches already burning through the outer hull. The invasion had begun. Inside High Charity, alarms screamed. The Prophet of Truth watched tactical displays with cold calculation. So the elites dare to attack their former holy city. How predictable. Tartarus. The brute chieftain stepped forward. "Holy One, take your warriors. Kill everyone on those strike teams. Bring me Thel Vadam's head." "With pleasure." Tartarus hefted his gravity hammer, the massive weapon crackling with energy. "The age of the Sangheili ends today." He gathered 100 brute warriors, the best of the Jiralhanae, each armed with the most powerful weapons the Covenant possessed. They marched toward the breach points like an avalanche of violence. The strike teams poured into High Charity's corridors, immediately encountering resistance. Brute guards opened fire. Plasma and phaser beams filled the air. "Push forward," Sisko ordered, his rifle dropping 2 brutes. "We can't get pinned down." A Sangheili elite leaped over cover, his energy sword carving through brute defenders. Klingon warriors followed with batleths swinging. The fighting was brutal, close quarters, desperate. "Worf," Sisko shouted. "We need a path to the control center." The Klingon consulted a tactical display, dodging plasma fire. 200 meters ahead, but there are multiple defensive choke points. Then we break through them. They fought corridor by corridor, room by room. Every meter cost blood. Starfleet officers fell. Klingon warriors died with honor. Sangheili elites were cut down by their former comrades. But they kept moving. Outside, the fleet battle raged. Ships on both sides burned and died. The Enterprise took heavy damage but kept fighting, Picard refusing to break off. "Captain," Data called. "The strike team has reached the intersections. They're 20 minutes from the control room." "We just need to hold," Picard said. Then, incoming, a Covenant destroyer rammed straight into a Federation cruiser. Both ships exploded in a fireball that took 3 other vessels with them. "This is madness," someone shouted. "This is war," Picard shot back. "Maintain attack formation." Deep inside High Charity, the strike teams reached the first major choke point, a massive chamber with only one exit, heavily defended by brute warriors. And standing in the center, surrounded by his best fighters, stood Tartarus. "Sangheili traitors," the brute chieftain called out, his voice echoing. "You dare defile the holy city. You dare attack the prophets." Thel 'Vadam stepped forward from the strike team, his energy sword igniting. "I dare to end tyranny," he called back. "You're nothing but truth's lapdog, Tartarus. A tool he'll discard the moment you're no longer useful. Better a tool of the prophets than a heretic." Tartarus raised his gravity hammer. "Come then, 'Vadam. Let's end this." The 2 warriors charged. They met in the center of the chamber with the sound of thunder. Energy sword versus gravity hammer. Speed versus strength. Elite precision versus brute fury. Tartarus swung his massive hammer. Thel rolled under it, his sword slashing across the brute's leg. Shields flared but held. "You'll have to do better." Tartarus's backswing nearly took Thel's head off. Around them, the battle exploded. Brutes and elites clashed in a savage melee. Sisko and his team provided covering fire, trying to break through to the exit. Thel and Tartarus traded blows with inhuman speed and power. The elite was faster, but the brute was stronger. Every hit, Tartarus landed shattered shields and armor. Every strike, Thel delivered, barely phased his massive opponent. "You cannot win," Tartarus roared. "The Jiralhanae are the future. The elites are the past. Then the past will kill the future." Thel feinted left, then drove his sword into a gap in Tartarus's armor. The brute howled, purple blood sprayed, but he didn't fall. Instead, he grabbed Thel by the throat, lifting the elite off the ground. "Die, traitor!" Thel's shields were failing. His sword was trapped in Tartarus's torso. Darkness crept into his vision. Then Worf Spatleth took Tartarus in the back. The brute dropped Thel, spinning to face this new threat. Worf and 2 other Klingon warriors attacked in concert, their blades finding gaps in armor. Tartarus fought like a wounded animal, his hammer smashing one Klingon's skull. But there were too many wounds. Thel recovered his sword and drove it through Tartarus's chest from behind. The brute chieftain looked down at the blade protruding from his torso. His eyes widened. "Impossible. Nothing is impossible," Thel said coldly. "Not even a brute's death." He ripped the sword free. Tartarus collapsed, dead before he hit the ground. The remaining brutes, seeing their leader fall, broke and ran. "Control room is ahead," Sisko called. "Move." The strike team pushed through the exit, leaving the dead behind. They were close now, so close. In his sanctum at the top of High Charity, the Prophet of Truth watched Tartarus die on the monitors and showed no emotion. "The brutes failed," he said to his remaining guards. "But I have not." He activated a console. "Initiate High Charity's self-destruct sequence. If I cannot have this holy city, no one will." "Holy One," one of his advisors protested. "There are thousands still aboard. Acceptable losses." Truth's eyes gleamed with madness. "The great journey requires sacrifice, and I will not allow the Sangheili to claim this victory." The countdown began. 15 minutes to total station destruction. Klaxons wailed throughout High Charity. "Self-destruct activated." Data's voice came over Sisko's communicator. You have 15 minutes before the station explodes. Then we move faster, Sisko ordered. Double time. Go, go, go. The strike team ran through corridors, blasting any resistance. They reached the control room to find it heavily defended. We don't have time for a siege, Thel growled. Then we don't siege. Worf pulled out a photon grenade. We breach. He threw the grenade. The explosion tore the doors apart. The strike team poured through, weapons blazing. A 2-minute firefight cleared the room. Sangheili techs rushed to the consoles. Shields are down, one announced. All defenses offline. Signal the fleet, Sisko ordered. Outside, Ross received the message. All ships, concentrate fire on the command tower. Hit it with everything. 100 warships turned their weapons on one target. The combined firepower was apocalyptic. The tower, where truth had ruled with absolute authority, vanished in a ball of plasma and energy. The prophet of truth, architect of genocide, died in the fire of his own making. Target destroyed, Data confirmed. But Captain, the station's self-destruct is still active. 10 minutes remaining. All strike teams, evacuate immediately, Ross ordered. Get out of there. The teams ran for their shuttles. Wounded were carried. Dead were left behind, no time for honor. Thel reached his shuttle last, taking one look back at the holy city he'd served his entire life. Now burning, dying. A monument to the corruption of faith. Go, he ordered. Get us out. The shuttles launched as High Charity began tearing itself apart. They punched through the dying shields, racing toward the fleet. Behind them, the massive station exploded in a fireball that lit up the sector. 3,000 years of Covenant history. Gone in one blast. The combined fleet regrouped in the debris field that had been High Charity. Casualty reports flooded in. 38 ships lost. Thousands dead. But they'd won. On the Enterprise bridge, Picard slumped in his chair, exhausted beyond measure. Confirmation from all strike teams, Data reported. The prophet of truth is dead. High Charity is destroyed. Covenant command structure has collapsed. What's left of their fleet? Picard asked. Scattered. Brute forces are retreating to their homeworlds. Sangheili vessels are requesting coordinates for refugee assembly points. Data paused. Captain, we have achieved a decisive victory. Picard nodded slowly. They'd won the battle. Maybe even the war. But at what cost? Admiral Ross's face appeared on the view screen. All ships, begin rescue and recovery operations. We've got a lot of people floating in the void. He looked directly at Picard. Jean-Luc. We did it. It's over. Is it? Picard gestured to the tactical display. The Covenant may be broken, but there are still millions of warriors out there. Ships, weapons, anger. Then we deal with that tomorrow. Ross smiled tiredly. Today, we survived. That's enough. The transmission ended. Thel. Vadam's face replaced Ross's. Captain Picard. My forces request permission to begin recovery of Sangheili survivors. Granted. And Thel. Thank you. We couldn't have done this without you. The elite's mandibles twitched. We both fought for survival. I hope, when this is truly over, our peoples might find more than survival together. One step at a time, Picard replied. But yes, I hope that too. The fleet began the long work of recovery. Ships limped toward Earth. The wounded were treated. The dead were mourned. And slowly, cautiously, enemies began to become something else. Not quite friends. Not yet. But perhaps, someday, allies. Earth orbit. 1 week after High Charity's destruction, the memorial wall stretched along the orbital platform, a kilometer of names etched in transparent aluminum. 47,000 names. Every human, Klingon, Romulan, and Sangheili warrior who died in the war against the Covenant. Captain Jean-Luc Picard stood before it, reading names at random. Lieutenant Chen, Ensign Martinez, Commander Shelby. So many. Too many. They will be remembered. Picard turned to find Thel Vadam beside him, the elite commander's armor polished for the memorial ceremony. Will they? Picard asked quietly. Or will they just become numbers? Statistics in a history file? That depends on us. Thel looked at the wall. On whether we honor their sacrifice by building something worthy of it. Behind them, thousands gathered for the memorial. Federation, Klingon, Romulan, and Sangheili representatives. Former enemies standing together. Admiral Ross approached the podium. "We gather here," he began, his voice carrying across the assembly, "to honor those who fell in the darkest war our galaxy has known. They came from different worlds, different species, different beliefs. But they shared one thing, the courage to stand against extinction." The crowd was silent. The Covenant came to our worlds preaching holy genocide. They believed their faith gave them the right to exterminate entire species. They were wrong, and every name on this wall proved them wrong. Ross paused, collecting himself. "We won this war not because we had superior weapons or technology. We won because we chose to stand together, because we learned that our differences made us stronger, not weaker. Because we proved that unity in the face of hatred is the most powerful force in the universe." He gestured to Thel. "Commander Vadam, would you speak?" The elite moved to the podium. Every Sangheili in the crowd stood straighter. "I am Thel Vadam," he said, his translated voice carrying weight. "Once, I served the Covenant faithfully. I believed the Prophet's lies. I participated in the genocide of your people. Silence, tension. I cannot undo those crimes, cannot bring back the dead, cannot erase the pain I caused." His mandibles spread. "But I can dedicate the rest of my life to ensuring it never happens again. That no species ever again faces extermination because of faith. That no soldier ever again follows orders they know in their hearts to be wrong." He touched the memorial wall. "These names teach us that blind faith leads to death, that authority must be questioned, that honor means standing for what is right, even against those we once called leaders." Thel turned to face the crowd. "The Sangheili have no home now, no government, no place in the galaxy. But we have something more valuable. The chance to rebuild based on truth instead of lies. To forge new alliances based on respect instead of fear." He looked directly at Picard. "The Federation has offered asylum to Sangheili refugees. Offered to help us find new worlds to settle. They offer this despite the blood between our peoples." His voice roughened. "That is true honor. That is what these names died for. A galaxy where even enemies can find peace." The ceremony continued. Klingon death chants, Romulan remembrances, human prayers. When it ended, people dispersed slowly, reluctant to leave the wall and the memories it held. Picard found himself standing with Martok and Worf. "Hell of a war," Martok said, taking a drink from his flask. "I haven't fought like that since the Dominion." "Hopefully, we won't fight like that again," Picard replied. "Hopefully." Martok offered the flask. Picard took a sip blood wine, strong enough to burn. "But probably not. There's always another war coming. Always another enemy. Except this time, maybe we'll have the Sangheili on our side instead of against us," Worf observed. They watched Thel across the platform, speaking with other elite commanders. The warriors who'd served the Covenant for millennia, now refugees seeking new purpose. "You think they'll be all right?" Martok asked. "I think they'll do what warriors always do," Picard said. "Adapt, survive, find new battles to fight. Just hopefully not against us." "No, not against us." Later, in a quiet corner of the Enterprise's observation lounge, Picard met with Thel one final time before the elite departed for the refugee colonies the Federation had established. "What will you do now?" Picard asked. "Rebuild. Help my people find new purpose." Thel looked out at the stars. The Sangheili were warriors for the Covenant for 3,000 years. Now we must learn to be something else. Not warriors for faith, but warriors for justice, for protection, for honor that means more than blind obedience. That's a difficult transition. Yes. Thel's mandibles twitched in what Picard had learned was amusement. "But you know what I've learned from you humans?" "What?" "That the hardest changes are often the most necessary ones." He turned to face Picard. "Your species went from warp-capable primitives to galactic explorers in 400 years. You founded the Federation, brought together dozens of species in peace, You prove that change is possible. We had help. Vulcans, Andorians, Tellarites. We didn't do it alone. Neither will we. Thel extended his hand in the human gesture he'd learned. The Sangheili request formal alliance with the Federation. Not membership, we are not ready for that. But alliance. Mutual defense. Cultural exchange. Cooperation. Picard grasped his hand. The Federation Council will need to vote, but I'll recommend acceptance. We need allies, and I'd rather have elite warriors standing with us than against us. As would I. Thel released his grip. Though I warn you, Sangheili culture will take time to integrate with yours. We are not peaceful explorers. We are warriors. So are the Klingons. We've managed that alliance for over a century. Then perhaps there's hope for us too. They stood together, looking out at Earth, turning below them. The planet that had almost died. The homeworld that survived because enemies learned to become allies. Captain Picard, Thel said quietly, thank you. For trusting me when you had no reason to. For seeing past the blood between our peoples. For offering my species a chance to be better than we were. Thank you for taking it, Picard replied. For having the courage to stand against your own leaders when they were wrong. For proving that even the deepest faith can be questioned in service to truth. Thel nodded. Then, with a final warrior salute, he left to join his people. Picard watched him go and allowed himself a small smile. They'd won. Earth survived. The Covenant was shattered. And maybe, just maybe, they'd built something better from the ashes. Riker entered the observation lounge. We have new orders from Starfleet, he said. Exploration mission, charting the sectors the Covenant controlled. Looking for lost colonies, refugees, anyone who needs help. Back to our real mission, Picard said. Exploration, discovery, building bridges instead of fighting wars. Think it'll last? No, Picard was honest. There will be other threats, other wars. But for now, we explore, we rebuild, we remember what we fought for. He took one last look at Earth, and we make sure those 47,000 names weren't wasted. 3 months later, the Sangheili colony on New Sangalios was rough, barely established, prefabricated structures on a world the Federation had granted them. But it was theirs. A home built on choice instead of conquest. Thel Vadam stood on a hill overlooking the settlement and watched elite warriors building instead of destroying. Ritas Vadum joined him. The first harvest shows promise, Ritas reported. The younger warriors struggle with farming, but they're learning. We all are. Thel's mandibles spread in amusement. 3,000 years as conquerors, and now we grow crops. The prophets would call it heresy. The prophets are dead. And good riddance. They watched in comfortable silence. Do you ever regret it? Ritas asked. Turning against the Covenant, breaking faith with the prophets. Every day, Thel admitted. But I regret more the years I spent following orders I knew were wrong. The worlds I burned, the species I helped exterminate. That is the real heresy, knowing truth and following lies anyway. A Federation transport descended from orbit, carrying supplies and trade goods. The alliance was young, but growing stronger. The humans invited us to attend their diplomatic summit next month, Ritas said. Formally introduce us to the galactic community. Will we go? I believe we should. Show the galaxy that Sangheili can be more than warriors. That we can be citizens. Thel nodded slowly. Then we'll go, and we'll prove that even the worst enemies can become the best allies. On Earth, in Starfleet Academy's halls, a new class of cadets gathered for orientation. Among them, humans, Vulcans, Andorians, Tellarites. And now, for the first time, 3 Sangheili youths who'd chosen exploration over warfare. Admiral Picard, recently promoted, addressed the assembly. You are the first generation to grow up in a galaxy where the Covenant War is history rather than present threat, he began. You did not live through those dark months when extinction seemed inevitable. You did not watch worlds burn or fight battles against impossible odds. He paused. But you inherit the galaxy those sacrifices purchased. A galaxy where former enemies work together, where differences are celebrated rather than feared, where species who once killed each other now explore together. Picard gestured to the Sangheili cadets. These 3 young warriors chose Starfleet Academy over military service in their own fleets. They chose to explore rather than conquer. That choice honors every name on the memorial wall. He looked across the eager young faces. Your generation will face new challenges, new threats. But you'll face them with tools we didn't have. Alliances forged in the fire of war. Understanding earned through shared sacrifice. And the knowledge that unity is stronger than hatred. He smiled. Welcome to Starfleet. Welcome to the future. Make it worthy of those who died to give it to you. The cadets stood, saluting with pride. The future was uncertain, dangerous, unknown, but it was theirs, and they would explore it together. Far beyond Federation space, in the ruins of what had been the Covenant Empire, scattered brute clans and remnant forces struggled for power. Some would become warlords, some would be defeated. Some would eventually seek peace. The Covenant was dead, but its echoes would ripple across the galaxy for generations. On QO Nose, Martok raised his glass in the Great Hall. To the Sangheili, he roared. May they make worthy drinking companions and even better warriors to fight beside. The assembled Klingon warriors cheered. Several Sangheili guests, including Thel himself, raised their own cups in response. To the Klingon Empire, Thel called back. May our blades never cross except in sparring. And if they do, Martok grinned, may the fight be glorious. Laughter filled the hall. Warriors from different worlds, sharing blood wine and battle stories, building friendships that would last lifetimes. On Romulus, Commander Donatra reported to the Senate. The Federation Sangheili alliance strengthens daily, she said. Combined, they represent significant military power, power that could threaten Romulan interests. Then we must ensure they remain friendly, the Praetor replied. Continue covert cooperation. Feed them intelligence on potential threats. Make ourselves valuable. A long game. The only game worth playing. The Praetor smiled coldly. The Federation saved us from the Covenant. Eventually we'll return the favor, and in doing so, bind them to us permanently. Politics. Always politics. But for now, at least, politics of peace rather than war. Captain Sisko of Deep Space Nine received a transmission from an unexpected source. A Sangheili merchant ship requesting docking permission. Merchant ship? Sisko frowned at Dax. I didn't know elites had merchants. First time for everything, Dax replied with a smile. Should we let them dock? Why not? We're all friends now, right? The ship docked. Its captain, a young elite named Usei Taham, met Sisko on the promenade. Captain Sisko, Usa said formally, I bring trade goods from New Sanghelios, weapons, armor, cultural artifacts. My people wish to establish commerce with the Federation. Warriors becoming traders, Sisko observed. That's quite a change. War is what we knew. Trade is what we're learning. Usei's mandibles spread. Though I confess, negotiating prices feels more difficult than combat. Sisko laughed. Trust me, some of the traders on this station are tougher than any warrior. But welcome to Deep Space Nine. Let's see what you're selling. Commerce, trade, cultural exchange, the building blocks of peace. It wouldn't be easy. Prejudices remained. Old hatreds died slowly. Sangheili warriors struggled to find purpose beyond fighting. Federation citizens feared the species that had almost exterminated them, but they were trying. And trying was enough to start. Aboard the Enterprise, now on a deep space exploration mission, Captain Riker, recently promoted after Picard's elevation to Admiral, stood on the bridge and studied star charts of the former Covenant territory. Hundreds of worlds, Data observed. Many with populations that were client species of the Covenant. They'll need help establishing new governments, new economies. That'll keep us busy for years, Riker said. But that's why we're out here, to explore, to help, to build bridges. Captain, Lieutenant Commander Worf spoke up from Tactical. I am receiving a distress signal from a Sangheili colony ship. They report engine failure and require assistance. Set course to intercept, Riker ordered without hesitation. Maximum warp, sir, a junior officer said carefully. Shouldn't we verify it's not a trap? 3 months ago, I'd agree with you, Riker replied. But the Sangheili are our allies now. When allies call for help, we answer. The Enterprise changed course, racing toward the stranded ship. When they arrived and successfully rescued the Sangheili colonists, the elite ship captain thanked Riker personally. You risked your ship for strangers who were recently your enemies, the elite said. That is unusual. That's Starfleet, Riker replied with a smile. We help those who need it. Species doesn't matter. Perhaps, the elite captain said slowly. The Sangheili have much to learn from the Federation. Not just about technology or tactics, but about, he paused, searching for the word, compassion. And perhaps we have things to learn from you about honor and dedication, Riker countered. That's what alliances are for, teaching each other. The elite nodded thoughtfully. The Enterprise continued its mission. The galaxy continued turning. The work of peace continued slow, difficult, but real. At the memorial wall, Admiral Picard returned one final time before his new assignment took him to the far reaches of Federation space. He touched the transparent aluminum, feeling the names etched beneath his fingers. We did it, he said quietly to the dead. We survived. We built peace from war. We turned enemies into allies. He paused. I hope that's enough. I hope it honors your sacrifice. The stars beyond the wall gleamed eternal, countless worlds, infinite possibilities, endless horizons. Time to explore them, Picard said. Together, he saluted the wall one final time, turned, and walked toward his shuttle. The war was over. The future had begun. And somewhere in that vast galaxy, former enemies worked side by side, building something neither could have imagined. Peace forged in the fires of war, stronger for having been tested. The Covenant had sought to exterminate humanity and destroy the Sangheili who questioned them. Instead, they'd created an alliance that would reshape the galaxy. And from the ashes of genocide, a new era was born. Not perfect, not easy, but possible, and possibility was enough.